Councilmember Hatfield.
Here.
Councilmember Benish.
Here.
Councilmember Shevlin.
Here.
Councilmember Gra.
Here.
Mayor Hubbard.
Here. All right, next we have adoption of the agenda. Does anybody have any additions or corrections on the agenda? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt agenda.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Shevlin
Second.
and a second from Councilmember Benish. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Agenda is adopted. Next, that brings us on to visitor presentations. We have one on our calendar here, so I will have Representative Jim Nash come on up and take it away.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Thanks for having me in. Sorry I couldn't join you last time. I had some obligations that took me away from stopping by, but happy to come and chat with you and answer any questions you might have. As you know, we've just started back into our legislative session last week. And, you know, this is a non-budget year, so we are typically dealing with policy only, and we may oftentimes in other years, maybe not this year, deal with bonding projects. But in general, we're looking at doing policy issues that are going to be to the benefit of places like Chaska and other parts of Carver County. I wanted to give you sort of a look ahead, and the mayor and I have been talking about some of these, and, you know, we're hoping for better news on Friday of this week, but we are going to be receiving the February forecast this Friday. As many of you have looked at the November forecast, there was a look ahead that we are effectively looking at could be up to a $6 billion or more structural deficit that starts in calendar or fiscal 27. And fiscal 27 starts in August of this year. So that's going to be a fairly challenging effort that we at the Capitol are going to have to reconcile as to how do we address a $6 billion structural deficit. And, you know, I'm not going to be overly partisan, but decisions made in previous biennium are making realities come true for this biennia and for biennia moving forward. And we're going to have to figure out how to do that today. A little bit about me. I've been in the legislature for 12 years. I have the good fortune of serving as the chair of state government finance, and I am our caucus's whip. So I'm at our senior leadership team, and I'm always grateful to receive information from folks because we can actually make that into policy quite quickly. Again, this is a policy year, and I'm happy to work on things that are easy or easier. The mayor and I and a number of your folks have talked about things like a social district. My personal perspective on social districts is it has been working in other cities. It seems to be a good idea. The businesses and the city work very well together. So I would rather stop having people carry individual bills to give one city something over here and picking a winner and telling the city over there you're not smart or pretty enough and we don't want to give you this. My perspective is let's pass it into a statute. Let's make sure that the deficiencies that we may have seen rising to the top are addressed. And then let cities decide from there and figure out how to implement that and then get out of the way. What I think is cities like Chaska or Waconia, where I live and served as mayor, they are built well for something like that. All you have to do is come to the various festivals that you go to or a fair and realize that we have the capacity and have the ability to make these things happen. And people will come out and they will infuse the economy, as I call it. So they're gonna come and spend money. They're gonna go from business to business, and you know, maybe they buy a piece of art, maybe they buy some jewelry, maybe they have a beer from somewhere, and they responsibly go from place to place. Sounds great to me. Let's get out of the way of those businesses realizing that. So that I know that is, I think, on your agenda of things that you want to become reality.
Yeah.
I will say bonding is always a topic of conversation, and Madam Mayor, we've talked about this.
Yes, we have.
The practical reality that, as I can see it, being a finance chair and a longtime leader in our caucus, is what we're going to see on Friday may make it so that we don't actually have a bonding bill this year, insofar as, and I heard Bob groan, but what may happen and become reality is that we don't have the cash to service the debt. And that's just the way it is. If it's otherwise, I'm going to argue for Carver County projects that are critical infrastructure, or that will have a direct impactability into growing that local economy.
We have two
I
that
know.
could, check both of those boxes
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, and,
Representative
I'm
Nash.
happy to advocate for them, and we do. Again, Friday is going to tell us so much, and we'll be able to give direction from there. So, I will say that having had municipal experience, I love working on municipal issues. Madam Mayor, you and I were talking about some of the other things. I know that your LGA is 0, and one of my pet projects has also been to eradicate fiscal disparities. It is, and for those of you that aren't policy nerds, it's an old and somewhat antiquated notion where cities that have a great business district will peel off X% of their business taxes and give them to other cities in the metro area. And that's a simplified version of what it does, but Carver County cities are a net exporter of fiscal disparities. And what it does is it hobbles that particular city from being able to keep that inside of the city that it originated in and allow it to be developed or spent to develop that downtown area. When I was mayor in Waconia, we went to the Capitol, and I don't know how many different ways of being told no that you could have done, but I think that there's an appetite maybe to begin having those conversations. I know from Madam Mayor that you are sort of a washout, but many of our sister cities here in Carver County are paying through the nose for fiscal disparities. And if you think about it, if you're a wash through, you're effectively handing each other $10. Let's maybe have a conversation around how valuable is that program. So, policy issues that I think that have passed in the last number of years that will have an impact here in not just the city but also Carver County. I was very pleased to have been asked to carry the project to fix our state's child welfare software system that will actually have a huge impact here in Carver County. So it's called SSIS. I don't know if anybody have heard about it, but it's the best the 1980s has in software to offer to us today. I was able to get that done. I work in the technology world, and not everybody knows I spent 17 years of my life as an abused kid, so I have a special place in my heart to fix these things. The software is so antiquated and old that many of the people who work in the government center just up the road spend endless hours in overtime, wasting time, wasting effort, wasting really the ability for them to help other children in the system. And many of those children are our shared constituents that need a little bit more attention from the state and somebody who actually gives a dang. So I did that. I expect for that to be up and running within the next year and a half or less. And it's going to have great impact for Carver County residents. I've done a couple of other things that have sort of revolutionized the way mandatory reporting works here in the state. That's been something that I've championed for the last 5 years. I'm very pleased to get that done. Something that I did this last year, you might have heard we have a little bit of fraud in the state of Minnesota. And one of the projects that I worked on created a greater amount of fiscal oversight and programmatic oversight for the state through the Office of the Legislative Auditor. And what we are hearing back already from the different parts of the administration is what it has done is has forced reports to go back to say, this recommendation was implemented, this one was not. And it's driving greater internal controls. And I'm sure you all do a fantastic job of nailing down absolutely everything that you create as policy and then making sure that it gets implemented. The state, not so much. And we're trying very hard to make sure that that gets done. So, again, I can come back in a couple of other weeks to talk about the impact of what the November or the February forecast is going to be. But I would say if we were all driving in a truck somewhere, I would say that the watchword would be brace for impact, because it's going to be very, very messy, quite potentially. So, and with all presentations, I'm happy to take questions. In fact, I appreciate them because then I can know exactly what's on your mind.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Representative Nash? I would say that our chair of the Suburban Transit, Southwest
Southwest
Transit,
Transit.
might have maybe a comment or question?
Yeah.
Yes. As you probably know, we're joint powers agreement, Chanhassen, Eden Prairie, and Chaska with Southwest Transit. There is the potential, there's been talks of an elimination of the suburban transit providers, and would love your support in helping make sure that doesn't happen. Our CEO sent you an email today outlining some key facts, which include Southwest Transit is more efficient than Metro Transit, where it would save amount of tax dollars. It doesn't really save technically any money when you look at infrastructure and all of those things that it would take to eliminate, and our constituents would be harmed with the elimination of suburban transit. So I think we're being lumped together with some other agencies unfairly, and it would be too bad if that was impacted the constituents here. And we will still pay all the same taxes, motor vehicle sales tax, regional sales tax, but we will not get the benefit of something we worked hard to build and to have and to make sure runs efficiently, being mindful of taxpayer dollars. So that email is out there for you to look over, and I'm sure you've heard already about it, but I would be remiss not to just mention it while we're here. So it's important. I know for our community, it's more than just a bus that goes downtown. It is how people get food. It is how people get to their medical appointments. It is how people stay connected. So it is more than a green bus. It is people's livelihood.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Madam Mayor and Councilmember Hatfield, you didn't need to ask for my support tonight because I've been giving it for the 12 years that I've been there.
Thank you.
And from my perspective, anything that the Met Council tells us that they can do better, I'm going to be very suspicious. And the reality of it is, going back to when Len Simich was there, I've seen a very detailed, deep dive on the impact of Southwest. I've ridden them, as I think we all have. Yeah. But for me, living in Waconia, we don't have a regular bus route there, but we do have their point-to-point. And I think that's a very innovative way to go. I met with the CEO in Waconia at Mocha Monkey, talking about just how important this is. This is not something that we want to allow to be absorbed into the behemoth that is the Met Council. And while the Met Council does own the buses in the underlying agreement, honestly, the mayor may have told you I'm a little on the blunt side.
Me too. Thank you.
I don't care that they would like to get rid of this. And they will have a fight with me and my caucus, and for those of us that are actually in their footprint of service, along with the other suburban transit groups. You know, here's the deal. The Met Council has not been able to actually run things efficiently for a very long time, and Southwest has done a fantastic job. Their buses are always clean. Their buses are always on time. If you hop on it to go to the fair, you get a firsthand examination on how great they're doing their job. And then you begin easing yourself into, well, you know, maybe I'll take that ride from here to there. They do a great job. And I am going to fight vociferously to make sure that they don't go away.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I knew that you would be an ardent supporter of it,
Yes.
so I figured I'd launch into that. But
Yeah.
it is
Out of
something-
fairness, I would give everyone my same spiel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and to be fair, Madam Mayor, a number of years ago, I actually fought on behalf of Southwest when the Met Council was trying to take the bus station in Eden Prairie, and I made them spend more money than they wanted to actually pay Southwest what its market rate. So take that for what it is. The Met Council knows me well, and they know that I will fight them tooth and nail to make sure that they don't rake Southwest over the coals.
Sure. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Representative Nash? I do have. Oh,
Happy to answer whatever.
I do.
Oh, okay.
Forgive me if this isn't directly correlated to Carver County, but it indirectly could affect Carver County. The potential closure of HCMC and the ballpark sales tax that is being proposed to be redirected for HCMC. Where do you stand on that, given the potential of the closure of a major metropolitan level 1 trauma center, and where would its patients go if that were to happen?
Yeah.
And not only that, but the ambulance services surrounding the area that HCMC ambulance covers would be inundated with over 100,000 runs a year that would not be made up for. So where do you stand on the ballpark sales
Well,
tax?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Bench, I have been talking with the Ridgeview CEO about that as well. You know, again, if you know anything about me, you know that I don't weigh in on something until I see a bill on how it would shake out. So you could say, Jim, how do you feel about puppies and kittens? And until I see the bill, I'm not going to weigh in on that because the devil is in the detail. Not only am I, well, I'm a policy nerd. I'm a giant policy nerd. And until I see what the bill says, I don't usually weigh in on that. But generally speaking, we need to keep healthcare assets up and running and online. What I know is that a huge number of regulations that have been dropped onto healthcare organizations are driving costs to the point where they are talking about making drastic moves. I think very much that we want to look at those, look at the impacts that they have on public policy and the intersection of running a business. So that becomes very problematic for a lot of them. But when we see what the details would look like in a bill, then again, I'm happy to come back. And I'm not trying to be evasive. I'm just trying to be very honest. My mom could call me and say, how do you feel about this bill? I'm like, Mom, the bill doesn't exist. And once I read it, I will tell you. So that the Madam Mayor will tell you, I don't run away from issues. I'm happy to give you a blunt answer once a solution has been proposed.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have my little handout for
Okay.
you.
Would you like to run through that, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, well, you touched on a couple of them. So the social districting legislation, we're fierce advocates for that because, like you had said, there are some cities that already have this enacted, and one of the cities is right across the river, and so that kind of puts us at an unfair advantage.
Plus, we're more fun than they are.
Yeah, we are more fun. But this will open up those opportunities for our downtown area to have that implemented and to be kind of that social district that kind of helps our businesses. And we were able to do something on a temporary basis this last Christmas or holiday season, and it was really well received by both the businesses and the patrons that kind of just thought it was like, wow, this is a really nice added amenity while I'm out and about. So it would be really great to see that through all the way. We did talk about City Square West. I know a girl can dream. But it is something that, would be right across the way here. And it's something that has just been years in the making. And that would just really make us a really great regional destination, just tie in the rest of our downtown for that redevelopment piece. Having a plaza, having housing above, and having mercado and retail, and in proximity to the rest of our downtown features would just be amazing. And we just need a little bit to cross us over the finish line. But as part of that request is that TIF extension request, which doesn't cost any dollars. It's more of like, yes.
I'm all in favor of things that don't cost money,
so
if it's truly going to be beneficial. But as I'd said, Madam Mayor, it is very difficult to sign up for something when we don't know what the forecast and the economic future of the state of Minnesota is going to look like. People would throw rocks at me if I voted for something that put us into a deeper hole fiscally, because that's just not what we need right now. And as great as a project might be, much like we tell our kids things that may disappoint them, sometimes we have to make decisions at the state that aren't always super popular locally.
Sure, I understand that. I respect that. It's also a reinvestment piece, of the money coming back from the money that we contribute as citizens in this area that we like to see as infrastructure improvements in our downtown. So that would be my one advocation. And then obviously we had kind of offline discussed the utility extension. We do have an industrial park that's going to be coming online, which will be of great benefit tax-wise to our whole entire community. And so having that dollar put towards, infrastructure improvements to be able to see that come online would be very helpful. And that's unless I missed anything. Okay, I did not miss anything.
That's
but
it?
I do have, got this handy dandy sheet in case you can put it on your desk every time you're at your office and think about Chaska and our legislative priorities.
Working in the IT world, I hate paper. So if you could send me something as a PDF.
I can also email it to you.
Okay, that'd be
I'm happy
great.
to do that.
That would be
as well.
fantastic.
So.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I appreciate you taking the time to come out here and visit. I I know that with redistricting from the last census, Chaska became part of your district, and so it's
Yeah.
nice to see you here
Yeah, happy to
and
be
be
here.
able to advocate another strong supporter of our
Yeah.
community, and
Yeah, I will leave you with your request that you sold so passionately. I'm not a no on your bonding request, but again, as a realist and as our caucus whip, I sometimes have to deliver unpleasant news in sometimes very straightforward ways. If we don't have the money, there isn't a project that rises to the top that spends money that we don't have. So, the regrettable piece about what does a $6 billion structural deficit look like? We have on paper what looks like a 26 cash surplus, but we have to see what that looks like. And it's fiscally imprudent if you know that, let's say it's the 2 days away from fiscal 27 starting. Why would you spend a giant bag of cash in fiscal 27 when you know that you're looking at a structural deficit in the next year? So it all comes down to fiscal prudence.
I understand. I wouldn't be doing my job, though, if I didn't advocate
Yeah.
for the things that better our communities,
Yeah.
so. You have a question?
Yeah, I have one more ask too, and I asked this of Lucy Ream last week,
Sure.
so just because Chaska split, I'm asking it of you too. When the education bill comes up, could we please be very thoughtful about how that money that is now allotted to the non-public education, it provides busing and school nurses to our private schools, and that was on the table to be taken away last year. It was a huge source of debate, let's call it that, for all private school parents, and
Yeah.
I think we very nicely handled that, but I would really like if, when that vote comes back, we think about the hundreds and hundreds of kids that are in the non-public school system, and what that would mean to them if we cut, it's 0.5% of the education budget, so it is really not that much, but it means a ton to them to be able to get to school and to have a school nurse.
Yeah. Well, Councilmember Shevlin, if you look back, you'll find that I was one of the louder voices both on the floor for that, and
I know you were.
my caucus was very straightforward about things like that. That a student who attends one of the many fine private schools here in Carver County has every right to ride a bus, as does somebody who goes to one of the public schools. They have every right to have the state provide their textbooks, and I think it was hundreds of dollars, if less.
Yeah, it's very minimal.
Yeah.
It was very
So
minimal.
I don't know why the governor proposed that. I believe that the governor would still like to try to make that a reality.
He would, that's why I'm asking for your support for all of the.
Yeah, and
there's
for
many
those watching at
St.
home
John's here,
that didn't know, we are in a tie in the Minnesota House. So I will tell you that that's not going to happen while we're there.
Good.
I also think that in speaking to a lot of my DFL colleagues, they also recognize that that was a very foolish way to try to balance spending on the backs of school kids who they just want to know that they have a school nurse and good textbooks and a bus that's warm to hop onto to go to the school that they go to.
Wonderful.
Not a crazy request,
No,
but you have a firm advocate in
Thank you
both
for that.
myself and my caucus.
I appreciate it. And I know all the families that I represent that have friends of ours and our own kids alone. We very much appreciate that you are standing up for them too. Because we pay our tax dollars in for the public schools and we all vote yes for referendums.
Yeah.
The little bit that comes back is very appreciated.
It's my pleasure to do it. I'm going to pick on Councilmember Grau.
think you
Everyone else has asked a question.
That's fair. The last two that were here, I commented more on just civil discourse.
Uh-huh.
We live in an environment right now that is everyone's right and everyone's wrong, and there's no middle ground. And I am a firm believer. I was a political science major, and when you really start looking at details, there's a lot of purple in between there. A lot of people are there, and we just need to have open conversation and show empathy and sympathy and conversation. And it starts with our leaders, right? And I just, like I said, I'm an advocate. I'm not accusing. I'm not celebrating. It's more of a statement because I do think more and more everyday people look to our leaders to be a role model. And sometimes at lots of different levels of organizations, we are not seeing that this day. And it's, again, it's just about we're all human. We're all individuals. So that was my comment to the individuals prior.
Sure.
Our other representatives, and I'll mention it to you. Just, be that example. And yeah, doesn't mean we're not going to disagree. It's not going to mean we're going to get everything we want, but just making sure we're setting that example for, because I'll be honest, there is moments with I have a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old, and I look at the world we live in these days, and I don't know if I'm making it a better place for them to live than where I live right now. And that bothers me a lot. Because that is always the dream of the parent, is that you leave the world better for your kids than you did. And I don't know if we have that right now. And I think it starts with our leaders. So I appreciate your service and your time. And it's not an easy role to have either right now. And I understand that because people see a letter by your name and either like you or hate you because of that. And that's truly not fair either, truthfully.
Well, Madam Mayor and Councilmember Grau, sorry, it's a process that we go through.
I know.
We always speak through the chair.
I know.
What I will tell you is a couple things. I referenced the child abuse bills that I brought over the last number of years. I couldn't have done it without people like my friend Kelly Mueller, who is a Democrat. I'm Republican. You all know that. I couldn't have made it happen without her. And what I will tell you is, when you see Republicans and Democrats getting along, there's never film at 11, right? It never gets the attention of the news media to say, wow, Nash and Mueller made a good thing happen for Minnesota. What they do put on the TV news is the times where we actually clash. Why? Because everybody needs their little hit on social media. They want to say, oh, this is so good. And look, my job is to create clash of ideas, but if you ask anybody at the Capitol, I only work against an idea or for an idea. I have never made anything personal, and one of the jobs that I have as whip and as the floor leader for debate is I drill it into the heads of every one of my members that if you ever go after a member personally, you're going to have a little time in my office where I will put you straight. We go to St. Paul to talk about ideas. And the best thing that you can do is, if you want your idea to move forward, you have to get somebody else to vote for it. And if you, in a tie, want to get something to become law, you have to convince a 68th person to put up a vote. And that means that we have to go, as I call it, shopping on the other side of the aisle. And if you're incapable of doing that, then maybe you should get better at your job, which is my words to them. But I would say if you came down regularly and were to watch committee or floor session or whatever, you would see Republicans and Democrats working together far more than the news media might tell you. And even when we do clash, do it in such a way that you don't look like a crazy person. Last week there was a bill in the committee of which I'm a co-chair. The other side tried to bring an amendment that none of us had ever seen. And I simply said no. I did it very calmly, and what we wound up doing is we have hit the reset button. We will have, if you're a political science major, you remember the person named Foucault who talked about discursivity. The concept of discursivity is that we make policy advancements through talking to one another. So that is my perspective on things. Sometimes you'll see people looking a little angry, but you'll never see Representative Jim Nash looking like Nikita Khrushchev banging my shoe on the table, because that just takes away from all of us.
Thank you.
Well, on that note, no.
Never want to be Nikita Khrushchev.
No.
No.
So, well, thank you for having me
Yeah,
in.
thank you so much.
So, I get chastised by Capitol Security. I give out my phone number is published to the internet. So if you have need of getting a hold of me, the mayor has my phone number.
I was gonna say, I have called you, and you are very responsive, so I really do appreciate that.
And I will say this is, in departing, come down to the Capitol to visit. We run precipitously low on normal people at the Capitol sometimes. And it would be great to have people come down and visit.
And I will be seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds good.
All right, and I'll look for that as an attachment in an email.
Yes, I'm going to get on that after the meeting.
Very good. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a great night.
thank you. All right, wonderful. Okay, so Representative Nash was the only one on the agenda, but is there anybody else here for visitor presentation that's not here for a agenda item? If so, come forward. If not, we are going to move right along to our consent agenda. These are items that receive little to no discussion, although something can certainly be pulled off of the agenda. Oh, I skipped over the minutes. Thank you. I like me keeping me accountable over here. Sorry, backing up, we're going to approve the previous meeting minutes for both the meeting minutes of January 26, 2026, and also February 2nd, 2026. Does anybody have any addition or corrections to either of those minutes? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve previous meeting minutes.
All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Hatfield.
Second.
Oh, a second from Councilmember Grah.
Wow.
Sorry.
That was tiny.
All right, any discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes are passed. And then let's move on to consent items. And like I said, little to no discussion unless someone wants to pull anything off or if anybody has a question on a consent item.
Just a couple quick comments. Excited to see the final site and building plans for the Peavey Business Center coming through consent, and then also just always exciting to see the music festival and River City Days getting their on-sale liquor licenses in order, because that means summer is coming, and we're really excited about that. So those are just my only two comments, but that's all I have.
Yeah, those are wonderful comments. All right. All right, well, with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent items.
Motion to approve consent.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Benish
Second?
and a second from Councilmember Shevlin. All right, any discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the consent items are adopted, and then let's move on to our, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Action items. We have a few. First is 8A, public hearing for adopt resolution number 2026-16, approving the easement vacation on 1525 Clover Preserve Way, DR Horton, PC number 2026-05.
I believe Ms. Hanson?
Yes, we have no Matt here today, so go ahead and take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and council members. We have a conservation easement vacation request this evening for the property at 1525 Clover Preserve Way, also known as Lot 1 of Block 5 of the Oak Creek development. So this property is located in Oak Creek, which is a DR Horton development that stems off of Clover Ridge. So it's nearby the Clover Ridge neighborhood off of Clover Preserve Way, which is two cul-de-sacs on that roadway. 1525 is highlighted in the blue lot that's in the middle aerial exhibit on your screen here. The property was approved as a part of the development Oak Creek back in 2022. During that time, a conservation easement was put in place with the development with the purpose to preserve and protect trees within the development. So there were a lot of significant trees that were protected as a part of that conservation easement, both on private properties and common areas within the development. This property in particular had one large oak tree in the backyard of the property. In 2024, the city did some normal site visits of the development and did tag this tree as having some signs of distress during that time, and we did inform the developer of those signs and the tree having some hazard to both the property and the adjacent trail that is alongside the tree. So at that time, we basically gave a verbal agreement or approval to the developer to be able to take down the tree, since There was future hazard likely to happen, and the developer did choose to take down that tree. The conservation easement is still in place out there. The only way you can get rid of a conservation easement is if you vacate it. So that is what the developer is requesting this evening, is to vacate the easement that is in the backyard of this property where the tree was. Since the tree has already been removed, there's really no purpose for the easement back there, as the purpose of the easement was to protect the tree. In this case, it came through city approval or city understanding to take down the tree due to the health of the tree being a hazard to the property and the adjacent trail. So with that, again, that is what the request includes this evening, is to vacate that conservation easement on the property at 1525 Clover Preserve Way, also known as Lot 1, Block 5 of Oak Creek, and a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-16, which would be approving the conservation easement vacation. This request is being heard at the council, so a public hearing is required as a part of an easement vacation request. With that, I can answer any questions. Otherwise, we do have a representative here from DR Horton too.
All right, does anybody have any questions for staff or for DR Horton at all?
Just to state the obvious, the easement there is protecting nothing anymore because the tree's not there.
Correct.
That's a great comment. Question.
Just stating the obvious,
Yeah.
because,
No, that's good. That's good to put that out there.
yep.
All right, well, with no questions, we'll move this along and open the public hearing. So let's go ahead and open the public hearing at 7:38. Is anybody in the audience would like to come forward to speak on this matter at all? Nobody coming up. All right. Oh, if you start the motion, you got to complete the whole way through. No? Okay, fine. I'm just trying to kill a little bit of time here so I can say that we are going to close this public hearing then at 7:39, seeing that no one's come forward to speak on this matter. And so we don't, okay, but now we need to make a motion to approve it. Okay, sorry. All right, so that is it's pretty straightforward. So anybody entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-16, approving the easement vacation on 1525 Clover Preserve Way, DR Horton, PC 2026-05.
Nice. All right, do we have a second for that?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Hatfield and a second from Councilmember Shevlin. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries and it passes. All right, so that moves us along to our second action item, 8B, which is motion to adopt resolution 2026-11, approving the concept plan for the Inn/Community Asset Foundation, PC number 2026-03. Mr. Cabot, take it away.
Mayor, council members, as the mayor said, the item in front of you is a concept plan for the Inn, as the project is called. This is at Yellow Brick Road between Chaska Boulevard and Crosstown Boulevard. Sorry, I'm just trying to organize my screen a little bit so you can see the subject property on the title slide here. This is a concept plan, so you're all very familiar with our process at this point, but just to provide a little more, it's high-level review, looking at the general project overview, trying to identify issues, get your feedback here tonight, so we can give direction to the developer on the proposal of things that they should work on as they move forward. So some background and previous approvals as they relate to this location. The Brickyard Villas was approved as a concept plan in 2009. At the time, this was about 46 detached dwelling units in this area, 180 rental units, and 3 apartment buildings were considered at that time on 57 acres. And so as things have proceeded, things have changed a little bit from that original concept plan. In 2014, Klein Brickyard 13th edition was done, At that time, the final plan had 20 lots on it. There were 6 lots identified on the east of Yellow Brick Road, which is where the proposed development this evening is located. Lots 1 through 6, Block 3, were to develop into 1-story detached dwelling units with shared driveways and utility connections. And so that is how these 6 lots were envisioned. The item in front of you tonight is really concentrated on 2 of those 6 lots that were originally guided for those detached units. A zoning ordinance was amended, or the zoning ordinance was amended in 2019. At that time, that amendment was done to reduce and clarify the rear yard setbacks from 30 feet to 20 feet, and with the idea being that that would enable these villas to go forward. As a part of that, there were evergreen trees that were allotted as part of that approval to provide additional screening. If you've been back here, there's a townhome development that exists kind of to the east or behind where these lots are located, and the screening was intended for those. So existing conditions on the lots that we're talking about, which is these 2 kind of southern lots of the 6 on the east side of Yellow Brick Road. Site in total, the 2 lots combined, is about 0.32 acres. Grading and tree clearing occurred around 2014, so you can, getting rowdy, there we go. You can see 2013 aerial on the upper kind of corner of the screen showing the trees that were there. Those were cleared. That was all done, under the process. And so sidewalk connections were created as part of that, and then there's our existing boulevard trees that were planted along Yellow Brick Road at the time. The concept in front of you tonight is a little bit different than the existing approvals, and so we can talk through the process of what that will entail to get there if this project is to move forward. So the concept in front of you tonight, as you can see on the screen, consists of combining the 2 lots that I've been talking about for a new building, and you can see the pad as it's sketched out in the upper corner of the screen. And then with a parking lot to serve the building. The building is proposed, and you can see the front elevation of it on the lower corner, to be 2 stories in height, about 20 feet tall, about 3,840 square feet total, so with a footprint of half of that, with it being a 2-story building. There would be 4 units, so it's effectively a quad, so 2 units on the lower, 2 units above. Each of them with 2 bedrooms. The upper levels would have balconies on them with storage, and then the lower levels would have a patio and storage allocated to them separately. Land use review. So currently the land use plan and the comprehensive plan calls for this area to be, it's guided as low-density residential. So low-density residential can mean a number of things. Detached, single-family dwellings are often what we see, but it does allow for, in that land use guidance, for mid-rise, multiple dwelling unit developments to occur. There's a very low density range in this guidance for 2 to 5 dwelling units per net acre. And so that is something that we are working with the developer on to further analyze the density. If we are to look at this as just the 2 lots together, that density with 4 units on about a third of an acre far exceeds the 2 to 5. But there's maybe an approach to take a different look at how does the development as a whole look from a density perspective, and is there density that could be allocated to this particular corner by still staying within what that range of what a low density residential area would be. So we'll be working through that as we move into preliminary.
Maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself. Is the plan, because it's only taking up 2 of the 6, is the plan to add more eventually.
So, yeah, under what's being pursued, right, would be to develop these 2 lots with the 4. So you would end up having 1, 2, 3, 4 additional lots that are not built.
Yeah,
The current eligibility would be, or if this were to go forward, right, these other lots would continue to be guided as that concept plan, that approved plan, right, in the zoning,
okay,
as it's been amended,
Yep.
would apply here. So it'd be for those detached villas.
Okay.
There.
Okay.
Yep. So looking at the zoning that's established on the site, PRD 57 currently exists. That is the district that includes the townhome development that exists to the east of this site, the 6 lots that we're talking about, and the 2 that are proposed for development under this proposal, and then the lots that you see over here in the darker shade of yellow, which are more of the villa type product that was originally kind of approved, right? Those are the ones that got built off of Brickyard Drive. So it establishes standards for that. There's open space included in that. Multi-dwelling units are included already. Low density detached dwelling, as I was talking through. So those are the sort of units that are permitted. Special use would allow for detached 2 dwelling units. So there would be a zoning ordinance amendment that would be required to allow for a 4-unit development in this location. So the plan process, or proposes a new 2-story building, as I mentioned earlier, the square footage of about 3,500 square feet total, with a footprint of just over 1,900 square feet. The building does not exceed the district's max building height and would comply with applicable setbacks. The facade materials that are shown are to be brick or hardy board siding, which aligns with, generally aligns with the direction that our code would require. As the plans come into greater focus, we'll need to make sure that we're continuing to meet that. Under the zoning code, the city's anti-monotony requirements would apply to this site. So this means that as a corner lot, 360-degree architecture would need to apply to this facility. And this has been included as a condition of approval. Site configuration. So as I've talked about, this is currently 2 separate lots. The idea would be to combine the lots, and that's an action that we can work with the county to do. An easement would need to be vacated, so presently we have drainage and utility easement along the property line, as we typically would along the property line. With this being combined, we would need to take care of that as part of the next step in the process. One of the things we're looking at here as we move forward is the parking. Presently, it's under the current zoning requirements. So zoning would dictate that, or would stipulate that there should be 2 parking spaces per unit. There are different ways that we've looked at that recently. We've done it 1 per bedroom. In this case, with them being 2-bedroom units, you end up in the same outcome. One of the things that we're considering is the nature of this particular facility is for with partnership with an organization called Beyond New Beginnings, which serves young mothers, single mothers with children. Obviously, because they're mothers, they have children, but they're still working through school, and so they're looking for some supports and things. Beyond New Beginnings has been a great partner, and they currently operate in downtown. They have a facility where they are doing something very similar to what's being proposed here. But I think, one of the things we'll work through is the nature of the tenant in this building, wouldn't typically have 2 cars. We also need to think ahead, though, in the case that maybe this facility changes hands or changes purpose and focus, to the fact that, you could have a different tenant at some point in the future, and how does this facility set itself up for the long term? So I think that's something that we're considering and trying to figure out here as we work with the applicant as they move forward. One of the things we've done in the past is to say, well, why don't we make sure that we, can accommodate those spaces,
Proof of parking or
proof of
whatever.
parking, and just build what you need to serve the current use. So that may be an option to look through. Some of the things that we would look at is parking lot setbacks from Yellow Brick Road in order to meet current guidance or current zoning need to be moved back. So looking at trying to achieve the current zoning. Screening, we would look for additional screening of the parking lot that is needed, especially under the current assumption that we would have, single-family units being built right next door. We want to make sure that, they would have that appropriate buffer and screening to the parking lot. And grading. Right now, the way that the project is being proposed, there's a likelihood that a grading would need to extend into a lot that is not part of this development, so we would look to try to minimize that, if not eliminate that, through the steps of the process as we move into preliminary and look at that grading plan a little bit more deeply. Driveway and utilities, previous plans approved, or previously approved plans showed shared driveways for the southern properties in a centralized utility location to minimize the impacts on the Yellow Brick Road. So you can see here, this would be the two lots as were conceptualized in the currently approved plans, and how there's a single driveway to limit the access points onto Yellow Brick Road, and then shared utilities to those units. The concept plan shows the utilities in the same centralized location. However, we do as staff want to try and work with the developer to think about how could we set this up to serve and set up the other remaining lots for development, and hopefully limit the number of cuts into that existing road to extend those utilities. So is there an opportunity to share those utilities across more than just the two lots here? That would be a benefit to the preservation of the road. So we'll continue to work on that with the developer as they move forward. So landscaping, the applicant will need to enhance the landscaping plan to align with the previously approved landscaping plan and current landscaping and screening requirements. So it's not atypical at a concept level that we don't have a fully vetted and fully formed landscaping plan at this point. But what we would say at this point is that there were conditions for some screening in the back of the yard relative to the townhomes. We do want to see, adequate screening relative to the parking lot, and ultimately the landscaping plan is going to have to meet our zoning code requirements. So the Planning Commission reviewed this at the February 11th meeting. Just to provide a little bit of the discussion summary, the applicant described the details of the concept plan, the connection to Beyond New Beginnings program. I see they're here tonight, so if you're interested to learn more about that, I'm sure they can answer some questions. The parking was discussed, questions about available on-street parking in the area, parking setbacks were discussed. The Planning Commission generally concurred that on-site parking is going to be important in this location, just given the nature of what Yellow Brick Road is.
Yeah, that was one of my questions was, I know that you can park along Yellow Brick Road a little bit farther down, but can you park along the road in that area of Yellow Brick Road?
I think that's something that we'll want to verify as we move forward here, just to understand, what that current situation is.
Yeah.
I don't know off the top of my head exactly how we have that signed out there. I know there are
Okay.
segments that are signed as no
Yeah, because I
parking.
feel like over by where
Some
the
that are.
apartments are, you can,
Right.
but I can't, I'm trying to visualize that, and I didn't go down there, unfortunately, I didn't have time.
Is this closer to the Lions Park? Like,
Yeah.
Up
Yep.
farther of Yellow Brick? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even quite place it in my head.
Yeah. And then the sidewalks, I think, generally we support the sidewalk connections that are there, making sure that, as this project is implemented, that those connections continue to exist. And ultimately, Planning Commission recommended approval of the concept plan, subject to the conditions that staff proposed in the staff report.
Is there room on the lot to, like the ones, what are they called? Meadows or whatever by Costco, the town home development?
Mhm.
Spring, yeah.
The springs.
You know how they have like their units actually look similar to this, but they have like separate garage units for parking, like off to the side. Is there some way that you could do something like that on this, where there's like a separate parking?
Yeah, I guess I'd maybe look to the applicant to speak to that a little bit. Is there room, potentially? I think, you know, there could
I mean,
be.
it wouldn't have to be full garages like up there, but just like a parking pad, there would be, you know, it might not be right in front of it, but off to the side.
Yeah. It's not necessarily something that our zoning code would require has to happen with a development like this. Would it be a great amenity for the users?
I was gonna say, I
Absolutely.
think that would
So,
add significant cost to what they're
Yeah.
trying to do, because a garage is gonna be awful
But like not a
expensive.
garage, just like a outdoor,
Like a carport?
yeah.
Certainly something you can ask.
Yeah.
No, the ones up at the Meadows have their separate garage stalls, but these could just be even just a concrete pad with 4 stalls on it, or you know what I mean? Like, we wouldn't have to, it wouldn't be fancy, but it would get around this whole parking issue.
So some of the things to work on for next steps would be, there may be a need for an additional neighborhood meeting. The applicant, there is a requirement, as you all know, in our zoning code, prior to concept submission, that a neighborhood meeting be held. I do understand that there was a meeting held. The issue was in that staff was not requested or did not end up providing the mailing list for that, so there's some mismatches to the invitations that went out compared to what the staff provided mailing list would have required. So we're wanting to make sure that everyone received adequate notice through that. So I think we'll continue to work with the applicant to make sure that those notices are happening, and whether another neighborhood meeting is going to be required. Density within that 2 to 5 units per acre, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to continue to evaluate that. If there may be an opportunity, or maybe an outcome, right, where a comp plan amendment would be required if we can't, get to that density number. Zoning ordinance amendment to allow more than the detached single dwelling units will be required here. A vacation of the D&U easement will be necessary. Continued collaboration on the driveway access locations, in addition to the utility, the shared utility opportunity to try to reduce the number of cuts into the street. And then site plan revisions to meet setbacks, provide screening, meet landscape requirements, parking requirements, and any other necessary requirements at this point. So with that, I'd entertain any questions. The motion requested this evening is to recommend approval of the in-concept plan subject to the conditions in the approving resolution.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Nate or staff? Is the neighborhood that's right over there, the yellow brick, are those owner occupied or are those rentals?
Talking about the townhomes?
Yes.
That's a good question. I don't know.
They are rentals.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought they were, but then I started to second guess myself. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for staff? Otherwise, the applicant, you
I was gonna
guys,
say, a
come on
question for
up.
the
Tell us all
applicant.
about Beyond New Beginnings. We want you
Yeah, I
to.
guarantee you, I will not tell you all about New Beginnings.
Wait, first of all, though,
I'm-
does this make you nostalgic at all?
What's that?
I said, does this make you nostalgic at all, being here?
You know, I was going to comment about the performance review. I had a list of things for the administrator, but that's okay. No, I'm Dave Picardi. I'm with the Community Asset Foundation. I'm here with Bob Repke, who's also with the foundation. So the foundation will be the owner and developer of the building. Once it's up, though, hopefully we will have very little involvement in it. It'll be a project that will be run by our partner in this project, which is Beyond New Beginnings. Our goal is to develop a building that can serve young mothers who are at least housing stretched. I don't know, I want to say they're homeless, but they struggle with housing. And we think that one of the goals in our project is to do something that not only provides that housing, but can be something that both the community, the residents, and the foundation can be proud of. As you're probably aware, our group did develop the West Creek apartment, and that was one of our board's kind of bottom lines, is they did not want to go out and buy an old building and renovate it and have that be where young adults who are struggling with housing living. Very much similar to this. We got involved in this project actually in talking with people from Beyond New Beginnings, and they inquired whether young mothers could potentially be tenants in West Creek, and quite frankly, the answer is no. That building is designed and really set up to house single adults, both men and women, but as they're all studio apartments. And so that's the goal with this project. You know, there was a time I do remember going to these kind of meetings, and the staff was always glad when developers would get up and say, we agree with all the conditions. We do agree with all the conditions. We're working through those. I think we all knew that this would require an amendment to the PRD 57, which is really the zoning, so that will deal with the setbacks. So for example, under the other multifamily buildings all along Yellow Brick Road, their parking is a 10-foot setback. And that's because they're in a planned residential district. If the overall density of the PRD 57 is, well, it's way below 4 units per acre. So the density, once we amend the PRD 57, then the density issues will not be an issue. The rest of the things we're working on, getting those plans together, landscaping plan, we hope to submit that as early as next week. One piece that I would ask you about, though, is the second neighborhood meeting. So the reason when we did the first neighborhood meeting, we were under the erroneous assumption that we had to prepare the list. Turns out the staff would have given us a list of people within 500 feet. And when we compared our list to their list, we found that there were 4 property owners that did not receive a notice. We did send them a second letter telling them that we would be glad to meet with them prior, and we did that prior to the Planning Commission. And I'll note that we had one person come to the neighborhood meeting. That person was in support. We did meet with the Homeowners Association from Yellow Brick Road. I actually live in that association. I live right across the street from, and anyways, the Homeowners Association was very supportive of the project. Of the 4 people that didn't get a notice, I didn't get a notice, Bob Repke didn't get a notice, and the property owner, DDK Construction, who is the one donating the land, didn't get a notice. So there was really one person who didn't get a notice. Now, we'll do that. It just seems like it's kind of overkill.
Is the one person in the rental side, or are they?
No.
Okay, on the other side.
No, it's one of the persons in the, no, they're in the Brickyard.
Sure.
That didn't get a notice.
Okay.
They're one of the detached townhomes. So again, we'll do that. We would prefer not to, just because I expect that we're going to go to meetings and be the only ones there.
It's a possibility. We've just, in the past, we've had a lot of people that have said, wait a minute, what is this? Why haven't we been provided this sort of information? So it's just been really prudent on us to make sure that we're allowing people the transparency of what's coming. And I don't know, is the sign I know, is there a proposed development sign that's over there on that property now?
Should be.
Okay,
I
so,
don't know, have
I'm,
you seen it, or has it not been?
I don't know that there is one.
okay, I mean, that's
Um,
another kind of thing that we've
yeah.
implemented too, because that visual, like,
Well,
wait, there's
again,
gonna be
we'll
something
do it,
developed here.
And in fact, there was one person who didn't get the notice. That person got a personal letter inviting to meet, and I sent them the full set of plans. I did not hear from them.
Okay, I appreciate you doing
Yeah,
that too.
But other than that, I would like to invite Molly up, who's with Beyond New Beginnings.
I was gonna ask for the director.
And
to
just
come
have
up.
her give you a background on what this project is and why it's really, we think, really a community asset.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, Council, thank you very much. My name is Molly Koivamaki, and I'm the Executive Director of Beyond New Beginnings. We have a site that's owned by the Carver County CDA. It's at 2nd and Walnut. It has 4 two-bedroom apartments and a large program area. We serve 4 families at a time. So the apartments can serve, can have a mom and up to 3 kids. So we have very active to Monday night. Tonight is our program night, and so there's a lot of activity going on over there because a lot of the moms come back, the moms that have left the program and are living successfully on their own. Monday night's their night to come back and mentor and help out the younger moms, the newer moms to the program. So if you're ever in the area, 2nd Walnut on a Monday night, stop in and you'll see a lot of really fun activity and a lot of good energy going on. We have more families that need our help than we can accommodate, and that's why when we were approached by the developer with a very generous offer to work with us for this new 4-plex, we were very, very happy. And we are very excited because we know that the need is out there, and we know that the difference that it makes for the moms and for the kids too. So we're serving actually two generations at once. Madam Mayor, you've been to our site, and you know that it's a very happy place. It's not a sad place.
Yeah.
It's a very energetic. People are making progress when they're there. They come in, they have stable housing. That's the very first thing, the importance of stable housing, especially for the kids. The stable housing, the kids aren't being taken from place to place every couple of weeks. Their toys and everything are in the same spot for, you know, a year and a half, 2 years, however long the families are in the program. And that makes a world of difference in that child's behavior and their ability to learn and their ability to have a brighter future. We are very happy to answer, and I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So is this building going to have kind of the same setup where they'll have the programming at that location on Mondays, and that maybe somebody that, one of the units will be kind of an RA or guide the others, or is it a little different?
Madam Mayor, thank you for the question. We are looking right now, we are working with a developer to provide that on-site program area because that is very important, that project-based programming site is very important. We met with a developer just recently, and we have some good discussions going on how we can accommodate that. So that is going forward. And
Yeah, I think you kind of answer the question. Is it's kind of like it's the same sort of taking what works and moving, and also having it at this other location as well. But just that, like you had touched on, that the need is great, and that you want to be able to accommodate more moms that need stable housing and obviously development of independent skills that
Yes.
create that success story, that generational success story. So
we plan on using the same model that we're currently using, and that is the moms meet every month with the family coach. They have mentors. The moms decide what their objectives are, what they want to accomplish, and when they set their own time frame. So we walk alongside the moms. We help them. We don't direct what they're going to do, but we're there with them. And I can just tell you, it's amazing when you can see the confidence that the moms gain when they learn particular parenting skills or life navigation skills or financial literacy skills. And you can actually see it, Madam Mayor, you can actually see it in the way they carry themselves and their confidence, and it's worth every effort that we put into it to really help these young women, because it helps their children too. A happy mom is a happy kid. So
Yeah.
we all know that. So.
Does anybody have any questions for Molly at all? No? I just think what you guys do is wonderful, and the impact that you have on so many lives, you know, and seeing that I think was it 2020-ish maybe when you guys first
Right.
moved into your first home here, and,
Yes.
and now to hear that you have like alumni, that's wonderful. I mean, that is a success, you know, that people have kind of moved through that and kind of carried through the program. So it's what an opportunity.
It is, and we did start in 2020, Madam Mayor, and we do have that alumni component. We now have an alumni on our board of directors, and so it's really having the moms come back, as I mentioned earlier, and having them work with the newer moms makes all the difference in the world. And so it's a scary, life can be very scary, so when you see the moms that have blazed that trail, then it gives the younger ones hope.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh,
Bob's coming up to the podium.
Mayor and City Council, it's great to be here and talking about this project. You know, if you've heard the stories from New Beginnings and now Beyond New Beginnings, I mean, they're incredibly inspiring. The challenge that these young women are facing, and then the results after these programs, the impact it's had are just so motivating to hear. They've gone on to incredible success. But I think one thing that is really unique about this program, and also for West Creek, is the community support that was provided to each of those projects that made them a reality. And for this project, the end, you know, it's kind of was a unique opportunity that an incentive for affordable housing, which this project identifies with, and it was a tax credit program. So if people contributed to this project, and as an example, if they would contribute $10,000 to this project, they'd get an 85% tax credit on that $10,000. So when they filed their 26 taxes next year, they'd get a certificate that gave them $8,500 credit on the bottom line of their tax filing. So it's an incredible, incentive, a unique incentive that we hadn't seen before. And I think last week, I think maybe last Tuesday was the day that you could apply. You could provide your input in terms of what you would contribute to this project. And so some people did it right away in the morning. Some people did it as they went through the whole day. $11 million was allocated for the program, and that was, I don't know the exact timing, but that all went in one day. And in fact, there were people that put in their dollars that they would be contributing to the project that didn't qualify because they were too late, because that 11 million went that quickly.
Wow.
It just shows the community support, the need for, projects like this, for the whole affordability issue, for affordable housing. But it was a unique opportunity, and I think for the projects we worked on with West Creek and now the Inn, I mean, that community support does help you get across the finish line. And when making those dollars work becomes a challenge, making those numbers work sometimes becomes a challenge, that community support makes a difference. And I think that's one thing that we can all be proud of in our community, the response to projects like this and the support we've provided. And I know as folks that are involved in developing projects like this, it touches you and it's also inspiring to see that community support. So just wanted to share that unique opportunity that was out there for this project. So great.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
I just wanted to echo your question earlier. I don't know, Mr. McCorney, if you want to come back up for this, but I was kind of curious. Obviously, the other 4 lots have the other concept plan. Are you thinking they'd still be those detached townhomes right now? The other
Yes.
four, okay.
Yeah,
So it's still, that's still the thought?
We have talked with the owner, which is DDK Construction, and that is their plan. They're looking at maybe a little different, more of a slab on grade as opposed to a basement or something like that. But they don't have any plans today to do anything.
Okay.
Your question on the street,
Yeah, do you know?
today, there really isn't parking.
I was gonna say, there's no signs to not park, but it's really skinny. It would be hard,
No, it's
Park there.
actually the same.
is it? Okay.
So in front of, yeah, I
gonna
actually
say,
thought the same thing, so I went out and measured. But the street width is 32 feet. Typical residential streets are 24. It is 32 feet down by the apartments to the south of this. And to the south, there is parking on one side, and it's been striped, but you're right. There isn't designated parking there on, I can tell you, people, I live right there, and it's pretty common that people will be parking in front of my house. But from basically, well, from that point north, there isn't any development that fronts onto it. So I'm sure that's why you don't see parking. I want to comment too about kind of where we're at with the project. We hope to break ground this summer. The total project cost is slightly more than 1.2 million. We have, let's see, we did receive a grant from the Federal Home Loan Bank of $180,000. Our foundation is committed a minimum of $100,000. The land is being donated. We did, through the tax credit program that Bob talked about, we had people in Chaska specifically designate towards this, and that amount was $200,000. We don't know how many of those came in after they allocated all of the funds. We know it's at least $100,000, so we have a commitment from the CDA for $220,000, and actually you'll see in the near future we have a request to the city for allocation from your annual affordable housing funds. The staff is, like, I don't want to, we've encouraged the staff to recommend that the $394,000, which is this year's allocation, would go towards this project. Well, I'll let them tell you what their recommendation is going to be, but that'll come to you at a subsequent. So with that group of funding that I just went through, we're at $1.2 million. We're excited about that, and if we'd like to be able to break ground right around Mother's Day.
And so I just have a quick question, maybe, and it's more for maybe the chairman of New Beginnings, but so if it's all covered, the building costs and all that, then are these like very discounted rent then for these mothers so that they can afford to live there, or are these?
Sure.
I guess I don't.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I don't know how.
Huge question.
Yeah.
This is also something we're working with the CDA on. The CDA will have, I don't want to get into the details, but they have, there's a new program where they get, they're going to be able to allocate what are called rental vouchers.
Yep.
The CDA will get around 200 of those that came from a new program. We're asking that they use 4 of those for this project.
Okay, so it's part of the
If they
CDA.
don't do that, then it'll be just like West Creek, where people get, there's, each of the units at West Creek are under a program that's called GRH, and they get an annual or monthly rent subsidy of approximately $1,000.
Okay.
So we built our budget around $1,000 for 3 of the units. assuming that the other one doesn't get any subsidies and that our foundation would subsidize that.
Okay.
So yes, we have a plan, I just don't want to say it's finalized yet. Part of the, obviously, we have to have funds to pay utilities and mow the yard and do those kind of things. And then we need to compensate the case management that Beyond New Beginnings would be providing also. And that's all in our budget, but we don't have it completely finalized yet.
Got it, perfect, that's what I wondered.
Good question.
All right.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. You know, I mean, yeah, if anybody has any questions, otherwise, I mean, just comment, you know, concept plans are a really nice, broad look at the beginning of a development, and there are things, obviously, that staff and the developer are working through, like parking and some of those other details, but otherwise, kind of that big picture thinking, just does this fit, and broad questions being answered. But if anybody doesn't have any questions, I think this is great, personally. I think this is great for the community, and I look forward to seeing it move along to come back here for preliminary. And so I would entertain a motion to approve, and I don't have the thing in front of me, so let
As
me
you're looking, I'll just make one comment.
scroll. Yeah, go ahead.
The only thing there's two things that when I looked at this and preparing, that got answered tonight that helped was the other lots, and I understand they're all owned by the same, so that's good, where it's not developed. I pulled the records up, so I was curious myself. And then I want to make sure, like, work through the parking, right? I understand there's some flexibility there. I do think it is to keep in mind what the uncertainty of what future always is, of what could always end up there, or other things, uses that could happen there. So, understand the exception that, yeah, it seems probably not appropriate for this project to say there'd be 2 cars,
Yeah.
right? However, you never know what 10, 15, 20, and hopefully it's still this group, right? I think that's always important to understand. So I think it's just important to kind of keep that in mind, right? Like, I'm open to flexibility, but I don't want to create a problem in the future that no one wants to have happen, right? We want long-term success, right? But, things change, things happen, environments change, and just want to make sure don't have a parking issue all of a sudden, right? So those are the two, and it sounds like, again, it's being looked at and taken care of, and so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2026-11, approving the concept plan for the Inn Community Asset Foundation, PC 2026-03.
All right, so I have a motion from Councilmember Hatfield,
And a second.
and a second from Councilmember Shevlin. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries, and that passes. All right, thank you for coming. All right, that moves us along. We have another 8C. We are adopt resolution number 2026-15 and ordinance number 1078, approving the preliminary plat and rezoning for Firefly Acres, FKA 0 Creek Road, Jenn and Scott Schlauderaff? Yeah. All right, PC number 2026-04. Take it away, somebody.
Liz.
All right, Liz.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. We have a preliminary plat and rezoning request this evening for the project known as Firefly Acres, formerly known as 0 Creek Road, being proposed by Jenn and Scott Schlauderaff. The site in question this evening is outlined in kind of the orange-yellow outline on this aerial exhibit. The property is located within our southwest Chaska area, immediately north of the intersection of Savannah Way and Creek Road, and where that roundabout exists today. Some adjoining uses is mainly agricultural use, kind of to the north and west, and then additional residences to the northeast, southeast, and south from other larger properties and developments known as the Harvest. In terms of where they're at in our 3-step process, they're in the middle or second step of our three-step process. So this is the more technical analysis of the project. We're looking at civil plans and those details and starting to analyze how the comments and issues that were raised during concept plan have been addressed in this second step. So Jenn and Scott Schlauderaff own the property, and they have resided in the city of Chaska for the last 9 years. They own the property immediately east of this one at 4080 Creek Road. They purchased this property back in 2024 with the intention to develop on it so that their family could build their own houses next to them. They started the process back in October of 2025, so that's when you saw the concept plan come forward and ultimately get approved. That concept plan is shown on the exhibit on the right-hand side of this slide here. The property in question is roughly 8 acres in size. There is an existing access that comes off of the northwest side of the roundabout. That's basically a field gravel access to the property today. And they will be using that same access point into the new development being proposed. The majority of the property is wooded and contains wooded steep slope, more so on the east side of the property. The west side is kind of where that open area or open agricultural area is, and where the development is really focused on is that open area on the west side. Permanent roadway exists on the south side, so that encompasses the roundabout and a portion of what was used as a public road of Creek Road. The property sits on a high point, so the development is really focused on that high point open area. So if you go to the intersection of Creek Road and Savannah Way, you'll really see that topographical change between where you sit on Creek Road and then the high point of the property. There's about 34 feet of change between those 2 points. When you negate out all of the unbuildable area of the property, so the wooded steep slopes, the creek, and the setbacks from those, you're really left with 2.4 acres of buildable area, so really that open western area of the property. The current zoning on the property is open zoning district, which is basically a holding zone up until it develops or redevelops. Then a more appropriate zoning district will be put in its place. These are just a few images looking from both the roundabout and from on top of the property, so you can see a little bit of that grade change from those vantage points. So the request includes a preliminary plat approval. The preliminary plat really breaks down to a 3-lot design. 2 of the lots will be platted as those buildable lots, and then the 3rd lot will be platted as an outlot. That outlot is on the south side of the site, so the lot that it abuts the Savannah Way Creek Road roundabout. The setbacks that are proposed are consistent with the R1B zoning district, which the property will be rezoned to. The driveway, again, will come from that existing access point on the northwest side of Creek Road and Savannah Way roundabout. It will kind of get realigned a little bit to provide some setback off of that western property line and provide access to the 2 lots being platted and ultimately that 3rd lot on the south side. Again, 2 lots are only being platted because that's the maximum of lots you can have off of a shared driveway. As soon as you get to 3 lots or more, they have to be accessed from a public road or a private drive, meeting city standards. So that's why the 3rd lot is being platted into an outlot. So in the future, when and if a public road does go through, that property would be able to be platted as a 3rd lot. Trees There's a few trees that align that western property line, and that's where the majority of the removals would occur from. So there's 21 trees that will have to get removed as a part of the grading and realignment of that driveway into the site. The inventory of those trees indicate that they're pretty insignificant in terms of the species, size, and overall health of those trees. So there's nothing really warranting additional preservation out there. They do intend to add more trees to that western property line to kind of make up for some of those losses. In terms of the comprehensive plan compatibility or consistency, the comp plan guides the site for low-density residential as well as open space, and the proposal is consistent with that overall guidance. The density allowed out there is 2 to 5 dwelling units per net acre. They're proposing, when you include the third lot, 1.25 units per net acre. So from a density standpoint, they're almost there at that two unit threshold. We did go through kind of more of an analysis in the concept plan phase, just to understand kind of how the property would fit into that long-range plan, both from a density standpoint, but also a future local road standpoint, as our comp plan also guides a local road potential off of the northern side of that roundabout. This development does not warrant the construction of that road. It's really if larger developments to the north and surrounding areas warrant the construction of that roadway. So they did demonstrate in the concept plan process that their proposal would preclude a local road going through in the future. So with that, there is consistency in meeting the intent of the comprehensive plan and what's guided out there from a long-range standpoint. So the property is going to get rezoned to R1B, which is a standard low-density residential zoning district. The table on this slide here shows the minimum and maximum standards of the R1B zoning district and how the proposal meets those. So the proposal meets all of the standards laid out within that zoning district, so it is consistent with the zoning being put in place. Utilities do need to get extended to the properties. They're currently stubbed on the northern side of that roundabout, so those will just extend further north into the proposed lots. The utilities will extend across a couple properties, so an easement for the utilities is shown to encompass those. These will be private utilities. So because of the extension across more than one lot and them being private, they will have to have some sort of maintenance agreement over the utilities that all property owners are a party to. So with that, we have two motions this evening. One motion is to adopt resolution number 2026-15, which is approving the preliminary plat for Firefly Acres, and then based on the conditions that are listed within that resolution. And then a second motion to adopt ordinance number 1078, which is approving the rezoning from the open zoning district to R1B. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we have the family here too, if you have any specific questions for them.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Liz?
I maybe just can't read civil plans well enough, but the grade is really, like, they're gonna sit up kind of high on that hill, right? So when I was out there today, I noticed, I was like, I had to drive up the access. I don't even know if you could. Is there anything out there right now? Probably not. I guess I shouldn't try in the...
Poking around.
I don't have four-wheel drive, so. But, yeah, so I did notice that. So it'll kind of be up on a hill. Got it, okay. That makes sense. It does.
I saw that mentioned building small retaining walls
Yes, there will be a retaining wall needed for the realignment of that driveway so that they can meet driveway slope requirements and getting a gradual slope into the properties.
I also like the name Firefly Acres. I thought that was cute, so good job.
Thought it was super cute.
I don't know, Zero Creek was kind of cool too, just like, because it was zero, like how often do you? You
So
know,
the only thing I have a question on is the lot 3, there was supposed to be a third house or there a third?
We've got 2 more bottoms that
Oh, okay.
if our neighbors or anybody else.
So that third lot though right now would not be able to be built on because of the driveway? Is that what I
Correct.
understand? Okay.
Correct. Yep. So until either a public street or they construct a private drive meeting city standards, then they could plat that
Got it.
third lot into a lot.
Got
But
it.
it'll have to remain as an outlot until that happens.
Okay. But that's all part of this Firefly Acres, so
Correct.
it's, okay.
Yep.
Got it.
So would that mean like they could driveway off of the other driveway? Is that what or is that what we're talking about? Or,
has to be a public road.
Yeah,
Well,
a
oh, it'd
public
have to be a
road,
public road?
yeah,
It just have to be, it wouldn't have to be public necessarily, because
It
it's a
has-
private drive, but it'd have to be the same size, like, it'd have to be
24
bigger.
foot of a road.
Or
Okay.
meet the same.
yeah, a public road requires more right-of-way than a private drive, but
Yeah.
a private drive still has minimum standards that
Yeah.
have to be met in order to
So this is
accomplish
not a
that.
private drive, this is a driveway.
Correct, it's a
Moving it.
shared
Oh, I see.
driveway,
I
yep.
see.
mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So they would have to expand it into a private drive to get the acres.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
It looks
Curb and
like
gutter, kind of,
other two
all of
daughters
those
are gonna be
minimum
petitioning
standards.
hard here.
mhm.
Yeah.
Liz, the homeowner resident to the south there, or just, doesn't really matter, the property, how is that zoned? Is that intended to be that residential in that space?
What property?
It's the one just south, would be, I guess it's,
On Creek Road?
Yeah.
yes, yep, so,
It's right before the roundabout, if you're gonna
Yeah.
go up Savannah Way,
yep,
coming from. Yeah, has the
Oh,
barn.
sure.
yep.
Yep.
Yep, so it's zoned open as well and guided the same way.
Yeah, and the only reason I ask, because, and I said this last time, and it's not a deal breaker, and I actually think it's super cool what you're trying to do and accomplish, it's kind of neat. It's just that I don't think people are gonna be super prepared or expect someone to have a right turn after the roundabout, right? That worries me. Now, it's not a lot of traffic, because it's
You guys,
it's 2 families, right? But again, I think, and that exists, you know, well, it doesn't exist kind of for the other property because that's before the right of way. So that's my only concern, and I understand there's really no other way to do it. You know, you can't make it off the roundabout. Yeah, that's, like, and that was my concern, and concept is still my concern, because you swing around those roundabouts. I think we are getting better as a Chaska people of navigating roundabouts, but I don't necessarily think when you're going around a roundabout, you expect that there might be someone turning right and then stops potentially, like, right? So, I don't know, I don't have any solutions, it's more of a statement of, but I will go that way often, so I will pay attention, because I go that direction often, so, because I'm down in Founders, so. But yeah, I was just curious, because if there's gonna be more traffic for that development south, now you're really stressing that roundabout a little bit. But
I know we talked about that being a future collector road. I mean, what's the timeline on that, or, do you know, Liz, or?
So you're referring to a connection that would head northward
Yeah,
from
through
the
like the,
roundabout?
is it
Or up to
is it-
Engler?
Is it Eklund?
Ekstrom's
Ekstrom.
property?
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
So, yeah, like we've done with other collector roads, in the city, that would be as development demands that to occur.
Yeah, and then,
Part of what drove that connection, back when we were doing the last comprehensive plan, and I think it first appeared maybe in the comprehensive plan before that yet, I'd have to check to be sure, But that was before we had certainty that the interchange would occur at Big Woods Boulevard in
Yeah.
212. So assuming that had never occurred, or it did not occur, right, you need to have that north-south circulation happening to connect kind of southwest Chaska to the interchanges north and south at that point, Engler and in Carver off of Jonathan Carver Parkway. Now that interchange at Big Woods Boulevard exists, and we have the north-south collector that kind of winds, right, Chaska Creek Boulevard down to Creek Road to Savannah Way. I think it's a real legitimate question as to whether that connection needs to happen.
Right.
But it's hard to really answer that without a proposed development to
That's true.
understand what that demand is going to be generated.
And that'd be connecting it to Engler.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, I just, like I said, it's interesting to see how it's developing. I don't know how you make that connection.
Well, the topography or whatever.
And it's, because
Is it necessary?
if this property didn't get developed the way it was and it was developed all, you could say that you could have put potentially a access off the roundabout north, which would go right through their future houses, which pre-development, right? Because otherwise, you're not gonna put a major connector. That would be, I would have really strong concerns about people turning right if it's just a little bit further down to go further up, right? So you're going around.
Yep.
It's hard, right? Like,
Yep.
but and part of the reason it's hard is because 212 is right there. And that's part of your north-south
It's-
connection, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
you're kind of boxed
constrained.
in there.
It's constrained, and time will tell. I think for the time being, with that being identified in our comprehensive plan as a potential connection, what we've done is we've worked with the applicant, to show how that could happen
Okay.
and set up the, understand what that grade would be. You're right, there is significant grade change there, so there would be impact, to the surrounding properties, including what's being proposed. But what we've evaluated is what that would look like, so that the homes are set up in a way that they aren't in the path of that likely road right-of-way. They're also set up so that those driveways would be a logical connection at the time that were to occur. And, we're trying to forecast the best we can to limit that impact in the case that a road extension occurs. But also, recognizing that it's a real, I think, open question.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the access to that property, if Ekstrom's ever sold, that would be almost off, like Saratoga, Liberty Heights from that direction almost.
Right,
Feel
yeah,
like.
yep,
'Cause
yeah.
that would, I'm looking at the GIS,
Yep.
right, like, that would be into it. Now,
Yep.
that's there where they live versus where the property on the side, right? So they'd have to
Mhm.
sell that piece to get into that access. So, yeah, I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it was stubbed out to actually be at the Prescott Lane
There are-
or
yeah, there's
Newberry.
Yep,
or-
there's neighborhood streets
Yeah.
that stub
Independence
into it from
Ave,
kind of the
yeah.
Liberty Heights area.
Concord Drive.
Yep,
Yep.
and I think there could be an opportunity, across from Prescott
Yeah.
to have a full
I remember
access
that.
there. So that's the idea, and I think that's a real, potential. Extrams have not signaled any desire to.
Yeah, no, I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting
To
that
develop
either,
or
but-
anything, so, it's an unknown.
Sure. Okay.
I don't have any questions. Like I said, I think it's a kind of it's neat. I like Firefly. It's kind of
Yeah.
it's not a plan that we see typically, right? We're usually in this world in Chaska as a really booming, developing city. It's developers, it's companies, and here you got a family who's trying to say like, hey, we want to all live, within proximity to each other, and it takes a special family to do that. And that's I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm leaving and
Right.
going right next door.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going
It
home.
makes me think of Everyone Loves Raymond, right?
Yep,
Right
yep.
across the street, right?
That's
So,
true.
but it's cool, and if you can do it and pull it off, that's
Gives-
awesome. Right?
Gives Grandma and Grandpa lots of opportunities down the road to hang out.
Yeah.
But I don't know, those other two daughters might be. You better watch out.
No,
It's
the-
very cool, very cool.
Yeah, the homes are beautiful, and it is really neat to see the concept, so I think things are moving along, and I think, you guys have laid out all of those future plans and options, so appreciate staff kind of working through those, with you in order to kind of see that bigger picture of what the future could look like and how to make sure that everyone, including you, are safe when you guys are turning in and out of your driveways. So, does anybody have any other questions? Otherwise,
I have a motion to.
you have two to do, so yeah,
Yes.
go for
I
the
gotta,
first one.
I gotta, yeah, I gotta go get back somehow to what the numbers are. One second.
Here, it's 2026-15.
Yeah, 2026-15.
So you're making a motion to adopt Resolution 2026-15, approving the preliminary
Yes.
plat for Firefly Acres.
Yeah,
Okay,
second
and you're
that.
seconding. Okay, so I have a motion from Councilmember Shevlin and a second from Councilmember Grah. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes, and then we have another motion as well as part of this. And I'd entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 1078, approval of the rezoning from open to District RIB, which is the low-density, single-family residence.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
motion from Councilmember Grah and a second from Councilmember Shevlin, who just reversed. Okay, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes. All right, thank you guys for being here this evening. All right, so that brings us along on our action items to 8D. Adopt resolution number 2026-17, approval of the concept plan for Big Woods Business Park, Scannell Properties, PC number 2025-23.
Who's got this?
Go for it, Ms. Hanson.
Need my-
Oh, we're changing up.
I need my speaker on.
This is great.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. We have a concept plan in front of us for the project known as Big Woods Business Park, being proposed by Scannell Properties. So the site in question, and I guess before I really jump in, this is going to be kind of a longer presentation. I am going to try to skim it back as much as possible compared to planning commissions, but I do welcome any questions kind of as we're working through these, just because there's a lot of things to cover. So feel free to jump in if there's something that comes out for questions. So the property is outlined in red on this aerial exhibit. We are on kind of the southwest border of the city, bordering the city of Carver and Dahlgren Township. This is a larger site, so over 330 acres in size, kind of spread across multiple properties on the north and south sides of County Road 44 or Big Woods Boulevard. We have Highway 212 flanking that eastern side of the project limits as well. Chaska Boulevard or County Road 61 on the south side, and then Jonathan Carver Parkway being that western boundary. There is one property that's not included in this concept project area, which is a property owned by the Close family, or part of the Close family. So we're at the first step in the process, so we're looking at this more from a high-level overview perspective, really starting to identify issues to look at in the subsequent phases. So we'll see this project, or pieces of the project, I should say, a number of times as they move forward. So this concept plan is really kind of setting that vision for the Big Woods Business Park area, but we're going to see it really chunked off as you see it come forward in subsequent phases. To give you a little bit of background on this property, they did hold a neighborhood meeting back in November of last year that they had about 9 people attend. They had a number of questions as a part of that meeting, but nothing really major or too concerning coming out of that neighborhood meeting. Because of the size of this project, it warrants an environmental review. You've probably noticed in other past council meetings that an AUAR, or what we call an alternative urban area-wide review, has been started for this project, which again really looks at the environmental impacts for a project this size and how to mitigate those impacts moving forward. This AUAR really started its process late or in the fall of last year. So that's kind of the steps started in September of 2025. You saw the AUAR come before you in November of 2025, and that was looking at a draft order and scoping, which really kind of outlines the AUAR document. And since that time, we've been working with the applicant and us being the kind of government authority of that AUAR, kind of refining the document through the past few months. The draft AUAR document just completed its first round of comments to be received by applicable agencies and neighboring communities. So it will kind of go through another revision process and then get republished and kind of work through that and hopefully get final adoption by you guys in a couple months or so. So you will see that document formally adopted by you guys. When we do an AUAR, we're looking at multiple scenarios of how the overall property can develop. It's looking at kind of more of a less intense scenario and then a more intense scenario if you're like maximizing overall development on the property. And really that's just meant to give options and intensities so that when the real portions and projects do come through, that there's kind of a foundation to work off of from an environmental standpoint. It's really the purpose of that. As we jump into the property itself, again, as I mentioned before, this property is over a pretty big chunk of area, so it encompasses 338 acres total and 16 parcels of land, which are owned by varying property owners. The Razor family owns the majority of the properties on the north side of Big Woods Boulevard with 6 parcels in their ownership, 2 of which are in Dahlgren Township territory, and that's kind of highlighted in this lighter whitish gray kind of on the northwest portions of the project site. Then we have 4 parcels owned by the Close family, which are on the south side of County Road 44, Big Woods Boulevard. And then we have 2 parcels owned by the Dice family on the south side of Big Woods Boulevard, 1 smaller parcel owned by the Morshan family on the north side, and then we have 2 parcels owned by the Traditions Development property owner on the northeast side, and then there is 1 property owned by the city of Chaska, kind of on that corner of Highway 212 and Big Woods Boulevard on the northwest side there. Scannell, who are the applicants of this concept plan, don't intend to develop all of those properties, but they will develop the majority of the 338 acres. So they don't plan to develop the Traditions properties or the property owned by the city of Chaska. So everything else owned by the Razor, Close, Morshan, Dice families, they intend to develop over time.
That piece that's in Dahlgren, is that piece, would that in the future be slated into Chaska?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Do we have to do that annexing now?
Yes, it
Okay.
does have
It'll
to
be
be
a part of the
congruent,
process?
yes,
Okay.
with kind of that preliminary step. And I'll get into a little bit more of that in another slide here. But that's a good question.
Since you have this up and we're looking at it now, I'll ask the question. The Close family there, the property to their west that they're not, of the west of the property that they're not selling, which is in Carver, or city of Carver, correct?
No, it's in the city of Chaska.
Oh.
Yep.
No,
So-
they'll be west of that,
Oh, over here?
where it's, yeah, that's that space.
Yep, so that's in City of Carver.
And is that gonna be industrial, what is that, do you know what that's zoned for? I'm just trying, like, I mean, it's their choice, but we're like surrounding them, right, a little bit? It strikes me as interesting, I
Yeah.
guess.
So Councilmember Garrard, just to make sure we're all on the same page, the city's boundary is envisioned between Chaska and Carver to generally follow the center line of
Yep.
County Road 11 as we're going
Yep.
north-south. So you can see Liz's, so the close family property that we've been talking about is kind of that notch out where the red
Yep.
boundary, is that the piece that you're talking about?
And so they're not selling there, I assume that's where their
They're not
residence is.
selling.
where they're-
That property is in the city of Chaska. It's guided for a green belt.
Mhm.
Much of that property is wetland, and the rest of it is farmstead right now.
Okay,
So what they're using that for, the green belt, much of it, what we guided for in our comp plan, our future land use plan, under our policy is rural residential. So the use that they're doing there today, aligns with, the comp plan guidance.
yeah, I was just observing that if, to the west of that property of the city of Carver, how they zone that, if that ends up similar to what's all around there, they're gonna be a residential house surrounded by industrial.
Yes, that is a potential.
Which, again, they're well aware at this point,
Mhm.
as they look at it, but it's
Right.
an interesting observation.
Yep, that's a good point. The majority of the property out here is primarily used as agricultural use, so you see open farmland, kind of spread across, over 300 acres there. There are pockets of wooded areas as well, mainly on the southeast side of the project area, and in some private yard space as well, and then kind of on that northern boundary. They did conduct a few wetland delineations out in this area and delineated a total of 27 wetlands that kind of spread across the properties. And then you have West Chaska Creek kind of flanking that northern boundary as well within the ravine, northern wooded area or ravine area. There's also two key community entrances that are identified in this overall area. There's one at the intersection of Big Woods Boulevard and Jonathan Carver Parkway, being that that's kind of a major gateway into the city on the border of Carver and Dahlgren Township, and then a second key community entrance to find on the northwest quadrant of Highway 212 and Chaska Boulevard or County Road 61 there, which will come into play as important pieces in some other topics we're discussing here. So the current request includes concept plan approval, and specifically that breaks down to 14 industrial buildings, 4 commercial buildings, a new city water tower, and a city electric substation. And how we've kind of broken this down just to give ease of reference between the project area is we've divided the project area into the north and the south side of Big Woods Business Park. So Big Woods Business Park North is everywhere north of County Road 44, Big Woods Boulevard, and then the south is considered the area south of Big Woods Boulevard.
Will that road become Big Woods Boulevard? Because isn't it when you cross over Jonathan Carver, it goes back to County Road 44 at this point? Or is it big?
No, it
Is
should
it signed
all,
Big Woods? Okay.
it
I mean, I
should
drive
all
by
be
it every
Big
day. I
Woods
feel like I
Boulevard
should,
today, yeah.
I feel like I should look.
I don't know, I guess I use them interchangeably,
Yeah.
but I
Well,
feel like it becomes, like you're right, I think after 11, it becomes a little bit more. just
yeah,
like
that road is
before.
tricky, because actually, as my kids will point out to me last Monday when it was beautiful, they decided that they were going to bike to Quick Trip. And they encountered the problem that for a stretch on the other side of Big Woods, which still feels like County Road 44 because there's no curb and gutters, right? And so they had no sidewalk. So it was interesting because they're like, oh, it was kind of muddy, and we're like, the cars are kind of close, which is a whole different problem, not for this conversation. But I, for some reason, thought it wasn't technically, because there's no, across the road, there's no curbs and gutters yet. That's still
There's some
technically a county.
gaps.
road.
Or- yes.
It looks like a county.
Yep, it's a rural section.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
County's GIS labels it as Big Woods Boulevard, so
Thank
assuming
you.
that's correct.
Yeah.
It's a great name.
It's nice.
And then kind of further breaking down kind of the north and south areas. So the north area is roughly 184 acres in area, and then the industrial or business park component would include 715,000 square footage of that use, and then the commercial piece will be oriented on the north side as well, totaling roughly 55,000 square feet of building space, and then where the water tower and city substation would also be oriented on that northern side. The green belt also comes into play, both on the north and south sides. On the north side, there is 30 acres of green belt that will be preserved, and then 9 acres that would be impacted with kind of the layout of the development on the north side. The south side is roughly 154 acres in area, and then will only contain the business park industrial uses of 1.2 million square feet. And then much of the greenbelt area is kind of oriented on that south side, with 57 acres being preserved, 13 and a half acres being impacted with the development proposal shown. From a zoning and comp plan standpoint, the properties in question are both zoned open and rural residential, or RR2, and you can kind of see that breakup on the top right exhibit on this slide. The open district is really over the city and traditions parcels. And then the remaining is the RR2 or rural residential zoning district. The one exception area is the 2 parcels that are in Dahlgren Township don't currently have zoning on them because they're not technically within our city boundary at this point. So right now they're kind of unzoned. The comprehensive plan guides this area to be business park. A majority of the areas for business park, which really allows for office, light industrial, employment centers, high quality site design, and supporting retail. The supporting retail can be up to 10% maximum of the overall business park area. What they're proposing with the inclusion of commercial will get them at that 3% mark for the overall business park area. So they're within that threshold that's allowed out there. Open space is also guided in this area for a couple parts, mainly on the north side with the ravine and the creek there. And then rural residential guidance, or what we also refer to as our green belt, is also guided within the project area, kind of bisects or dissects the north and south sides in a diagonal format here. And I'll show the Southwest Chaska plan that shows that a little bit more clearly. And then also guides those 2 parcels for the Dahlgren Township growth area. So really kind of where we ultimately will see the city of Chaska's limits come to kind of that center line of Jonathan Carver Parkway to the west there. That area has been guided to hopefully get an orderly annexation agreement over it in our comp plan, which we were able to complete back in September of 2025. So there is a formal agreement in place for those 2 parcels that are in Dahlgren Township. And that really gives the city of Chaska zoning authority and subdivision authority over those 2 parcels. It also kind of sets up what needs to happen in order for those properties to be annexed and be formally a part of the city of Chaska, which that piece of it does need to happen congruent with the preliminary step of when those parcels are developed. And they're also a part of kind of what's considered phase one of this overall area. Additionally, because our comp plan doesn't have guidance over them currently, a comp plan amendment will also need to occur as a part of that to establish that land use guidance. Another guiding document for this area is what we call our Southwest Chaska Plan. This was approved back in 2013, covers roughly 2.8 square miles of land, and really sets the stage for land use, public infrastructure, and design guidelines within this area. The concept plan, generally speaking, is consistent with the guidance that's set up out here, which is pretty similar to how the comp plan guides this space too. I would say the exception is it kind of shows kind of that overall guidance even for the two Dahlgren Township parcels as well. So the area is guided business park and then rural residential open space for this overall area. So that rural residential green belt is kind of outlined in green on the Southwest Chaska Plan. So you
What
can
is this?
see.
I'm trying to think on the Carver side, so on the Chaska side I can see, but what on Jonathan Carver, on the Carver side is there as a reference point? Are we talking like up by Fleet Farm or down by the, like, down by Mizzy's and all that, or?
No,
It's like
yeah.
Lakewood, Lake,
Lake Farm and then Engler.
That's what I thought, okay, okay. I was trying to orient where we were talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, Fleet Farm would be on the very south
South part.
end of
Yep,
this.
like this is
Kind of where I'm showing my cursor is where Fleet Farm generally is.
Okay, yeah, so we're north of where I was originally thinking, okay, got it. And there's nothing built out there on the Dahlgren side right now, it's just open field.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, yeah,
Yep.
then I know where we're talking.
Jumping into the Greenbelt area, because this is kind of a big component of the project area. And really the intention of the Greenbelt is to establish an edge around the city to kind of make it stand out or define it more from adjacent communities and separate it from those adjacent communities. Another component is to protect the rural character along those edges and protect the character at those key community entrance points, which again are kind of those main dividers between those adjacent communities. The Greenbelt area encompasses a little over 85 acres of the project area. So the north side encompasses roughly 30 acres of green belt area, and then the south side encompasses roughly a little over 55 acres of green belt area. With the proposed concept plan, there are impacts proposed on the north and south sides in those green belt areas. It's really where any impervious is going to happen in those green belt areas, so parking and or building space. For the north side, they are proposing roughly 9 acres of the greenbelt area would be impacted. And then on the south side, roughly 13.5 acres of impact. Total, they're proposing a little over 22 acres of impact, which is roughly 26% of that greenbelt area. There is a policy in the Greenbelt portion of the comprehensive plan that does allow for impacts to the Greenbelt area, or what we consider cluster development. And really what that gets to is you can impact the Greenbelt area and pursue cluster development as long as you meet 10 stated objectives that are defined in there. I'm not going to go into all of those. However, a comprehensive plan amendment would need to occur if you're planning to propose impacts within the Greenbelt area. A couple of the conditions that need to be met to pursue that is you have to connect to city utilities. You also have to prioritize and protect the view sheds at key community entrances. And then there is a development limit to approximately a third of that greenbelt area. So only up to 30% of the greenbelt area could be used for development activity. The remaining 2/3 or 70% has to be protected and undeveloped in order for that cluster development to be approved. Relating back to the previous slide here, again, their total impact area is roughly 26%, so they do stay within that 1/3 developable threshold.
Can I ask maybe a silly question? Because majority on the north side is parking related as far as that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Was the discussion about a like multi-level parking or a ramp at all discussed? I mean, is that just really impeding of the cost of things? But just out of curiosity.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think that specific question has really been posed, and maybe it's a good one for the developer and applicant to address this evening if you have any thoughts on that.
I'm just, I look at kind of where it's laying out on the north side and just the view shed from Jonathan Carver Parkway or County Road 11.
Yeah.
And I think about, well, I wonder if, and I'm not gonna count all the lot spaces because my eyeballs won't allow me to do that at that screen. But, would a ramp be something that might be less encroachment? Would it be more visually appealing? I don't know. That's like the other part of that question.
Mm-hmm.
But, visual aesthetic of like a big giant parking lot versus like maybe a smaller multi-level parking ramp. That's a little less intrusive looking. I don't know, like, is that, or it could be tucked, I don't know. I'm not looking to rewrite these plans big time or anything, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, could be one for the developer to weigh in on after Liz gets through her presentation. Relative to the green belt and the view shed that we're trying to maintain and protect from Jonathan Carver Parkway, the flat parking lot may be easier to screen through berming and things, and Liz has some cross sections that she'll get to at a concept level. It is going to be an important piece, and it's something that's noted in some of the conditions of approval and in Liz's staff report in the review, that view shed protection is a really critical item relative to Jonathan Carver Parkway because of the Greenbelt policy, specifically to that. Now, from a land use perspective, to be able to create more ability for, building development, things like that, right, as opposed to parking lot. That's where, a parking structure could help with more density.
Yeah.
But as far as screening, I think maybe
I get what
counterintuitive
I understand what
there.
you're saying. Like, you're right. And I know that this is concept and it's, high level and, not knowing exactly how the perimeter is gonna look and everything like
But
that.
if you think about it from a ramp perspective, when East Creek put up their ramp, that's right on 212, and you don't, and County Road 41, and you don't, the view shed itself, you don't even see it. You do, you don't. But you know what I mean, like, that's a ramp, that's a parking structure, and from 212, I guess it looks like a ramp, but it's well screened out. It's not like you're like, oh my gosh, there's a ramp, and then from 41.
Yeah, I suppose
It's
that's
set
kind of
down.
tucked down though, right?
There's some elevation advantages to that
Yeah,
ramp. and
because
how
you
that's
don't really
situated.
see,
Yeah, you
it's
don't
not like
see it.
you're looking at the upper level rather than like the lower level,
Yeah, I
which
was gonna say.
this is not gonna be the case because I think about again, the like landscape, it's pretty flat, it's farm field, it's not, it's pretty
Well,
flat.
there's a lot of topography out
Yeah,
there.
there is,
It's not a pancake site. But again, I think as we're talking about the objective to screen and create a rural view shed from 11, from Big Woods Boulevard and 11, and then north and south on 11. The idea being that we're creating separation, sort of a gateway to Chaska, that there's a clear kind of distinction and marcation between
Right.
Carver as it develops in this direction, and Chaska. That's always been the goal and the objective of the Greenbelt. Adding height to a structure inherently is going to add challenge to the screening.
No, I get
So-
it. I get it. And the southern part of it, I know it's, there's a building that's kind of going through it, but when you think about, again, like you said, the intention of why the green belt, and you think about the view shed coming off of the highway, that accomplishes that goal, because you're not really gonna see that building tucked in there with everything that's buffering green-wise on the outside of where the highway runs through, so. Anyways, just comments. Sorry, go ahead.
So I think the only other thing I'll add to kind of the Greenbelt discussion is there are a few areas within the Greenbelt space that are shown as being protected. So we're talking about these green areas here on the Greenbelt exhibit. They are showing stormwater ponding mainly on the north side with the Phase 1 or Building 1 site that I'll get into a little bit more detail later, which the discussion around that is if they intend to put stormwater ponds in the unimpacted Greenbelt area, it could be considered as long as that rural character is still maintained, that view shed is still maintained or unobstructed, and they enhance kind of that natural character within that area. It wouldn't be acceptable if the view shed is impacted or is depleted more with the introduction of ponding there, or if they propose a design that shows a lot of exposed stormwater equipment, or basically kind of a dry basin, something that doesn't add to that natural character out there that really the intent of the Greenbelt is set up for. They've included an example image of a stormwater pond they included on a golf course that they intend to mimic. And I think, again, the devil is in the details of the design of the stormwater ponding and what they use on Building 1 site. So we'll want to understand kind of all those components and understand the view sheds that are being achieved from the roadways and public areas to ensure that, again, the rural character in the view shed is prioritized as much as possible. So they do intend to phase this overall project area. They're not coming in one big swoop here, which would be a big venture. So they do intend to phase out the entire project area and have kind of the first phase really encompass one building site, which is referred to as Building 1. And that's highlighted in red here on this phasing plan. They do have an end user identified for Building 1 site, so hence why they're able to kind of continue moving forward on that portion of the project, which would be a distribution center. With the development of Building 1, there are other portions of the project that will need to be constructed to service that Building 1 site. So also included in Phase 1 would be improvements to the intersection of Big Woods Boulevard and kind of that main spine road into the north side, or what we consider Public Road A, which will cul-de-sac on that north side.
Is that about halfway? 'Cause it's about halfway between the current roundabout and Jonathan Carver, the new proposed roundabout in the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah, if we're.
Because that doesn't exist today. There's nothing there's no driveway or anything that delineates that.
Correct. There is an existing roundabout at the interchange for Highway 212. So that new proposed roundabout is, like you said, it's roughly that midpoint between Jonathan Carver Parkway and Highway 212.
And to my previous statement, that's when curb and gutter would be extended the entire way.
Yes,
Because the existing roundabout's where it stops
yes,
on 212.
yep. So it would improve that street corridor into an urban section, curb and gutter effectively.
Yeah, it's rough right now. It's a rough stretch of road right there as well. Well needs to be improved there. 'Cause it's-
Utilities will also need to be extended to the project area, and those really are kind of on the north or across the ravine at Creek Road and Chaska Creek Boulevard, and I'll show an exhibit showing exactly where those stub off today, but that would need to be extended south into the site to service Building 1 as well as other subsequent phases. They also do intend to grade or mass grade the north side of the project area, or Big Woods Business Park North.
The red area?
Mm-hmm. The red area and portions of the blue area too on the north side. So again, that red area in this phasing exhibit is really what would come forward first in that phase 1. The blue area is the other areas that would be held by Scannell Properties and then developed as they identify end users for those future sites. And then the orange is basically the properties owned by Traditions in the city of Chaska, and those would be developed by other people. Access into the site, so there's kind of a main collector road that would provide access both on the north and the south sides, which we refer to as Public Road A, or what's highlighted as orange on this exhibit. And that would kind of run north to south and eventually connect into Jonathan Carver Parkway on the south side. There's a new roundabout intersection that would happen where Public Road A intersects with Big Woods Boulevard to provide that kind of main ingress and egress both on the north and south sides. A new access or public road is also shown on the north side, what we refer to as Public Road B, which would extend off of that existing single-lane roundabout at the Highway 212 interchange, and basically provide access to those commercial properties on the north side, and that would eventually intersect with Public Road A, or the main collector road. And then also on the north side is a private intersection or access point on a Jonathan Carver Parkway, also known as Intersection A. Right now it's being shown as a right-in, right-out. That would access that Building 1 site only. On the south side, there would be another public road extension coming off of the main collector road, or what we consider Public Road C. And that would come all the way down to Chaska Boulevard to the south there. And then lastly, forgot to mention, on the north side, there is a proposal for a private road to come off of the main collector road there and provide access to additional industrial properties on the Tradition site and the future city substation, kind of on the northeast portion of the project area.
So this might be a really dumb question, but is there a reason why the phase 1 is the furthest west, like where the annexing will have to happen and all that?
Why it's oriented on the west side?
Yeah, like why is that the first? Why is it just because that's where the buyer wanted it to be, or?
Yeah,
I
I think
just
I
don't
might
quite-
have the applicant
Okay,
respond to
sure.
that, just in terms of their thought process for that, yeah.
No,
That's a
yeah,
good
good.
question.
It's-
Good evening, my name's Jay Kurth with Scannell Properties. part of the reason why, and honestly, the majority of the reason why is just functionally how the site lays out.
Got it.
So building one requires, the requirement for the size of the building and the parking. In addition, pulling, the internal road and the utilities through, it just made sense to do it that way.
Okay, yeah,
Do
I was just asking, so.
For sure.
Do you have an end user already signed on for that particular, where she's was speaking of
Yeah,
that
phase
area?
one, yeah, we're talking directly to an end user right
Okay.
now. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if that's where they want to put their facility and it makes the most sense, then that
Well,
totally
and
works.
also from an internal road perspective, when you're building an
Get it all
internal
done.
road, you're wanting to, split it right down the middle so you can utilize the
Yes.
road together and the utilities can be pulled off on either side.
Yes.
It kind of just made sense that way.
It does.
So,
Get it all done,
Yeah.
and then you can just sell off the land as people are ready for,
Yep.
all built up. Makes sense.
Yep.
But then that would force this annexation to happen first, because that furthest west is still Dahlgren today.
Correct,
Yeah,
yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're all running.
Yeah,
It would all run
Councilmember
concurrently.
Shevlin, I can just note, Liz, if I'm undercutting a future message, but we do have an orderly annexation agreement with Dahlgren Township in place, and that went to council, I think, towards the
Yeah,
last
so
year.
Yeah,
that
you
wouldn't
said like
preclude this
November,
from-
correct? Yeah.
Yep, and so there is a timeline on that with Dahlgren. They gave us a little bit of runway, but for us to execute on that, that annexation is in line with what we
Okay.
kind of set out, so.
Perfect. And then just the last question, out of curiosity, like what it would be the timeline of wanting to start some of this work? Are we talking these roads? I mean, because all that has to happen before
Yep.
we can put buildings up.
Yep,
Mhm.
I think Jake has been clear that he would have liked to start
Yesterday,
years
yeah.
ago, so
Yeah.
Well,
I think it'll be an aggressive
definitely not yesterday.
timeline.
It was a little too cold yesterday. But, yeah, the most opportune time to break ground in Minnesota is obviously when the ground thaws.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to have our shell fully enclosed, or the building fully enclosed, before it gets
Winter.
colder, for obvious reasons. So we don't incur winter conditions, but if we continue on the timeline that we are currently on right now, we will have shovels in the ground by June, which
Okay.
will be, as Liz made note of, it would be the construction, or the mass grading of the site, and the construction utilities, Road A, offsite infrastructure that's needed for the park, and obviously building one as well.
Sure, perfect.
So,
You may get to this, but now with that timeline, it makes me ask the obvious question. What's the construction access? Where they access it? What road do they access their property for construction?
Mhm.
I think it's-
Undefined.
Is it Big Woods Boulevard?
Well, I don't think it's been fully defined right now.
Because that is a narrow road
Mhm.
with lots of young traffic
Mhm.
going to Carver Elementary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
And it'll
like, that
take-
is something that needs to be thought about, and I
Yes.
don't know if there's a lot of good options, that's the reality, right?
mhm.
But that road is beat up the way it is now, which is good, it needs to get redone.
Did you go to the open house?
No, I'm not, I mean, I did, I looked it online, I'm not even talking, it's that stretch from where the interchange ends to Jonathan Carver, right? Where it goes back basically to a county road, I drive it every
Mhm.
Monday through Friday, because I bring my kid to Carver Elementary. It's beat up, it's super narrow, it's a bus route, lots of cars go there, so like morning traffic, construction traffic, so I just think that's something, like, I don't wanna do anything to prevent this from happening, cause love, this is good for Chaska for
No, this
lots,
is great.
lots of reasons, but I will get a lot of calls when that's a problem, I'll just say it that way, right? Cause I live in that neighborhood, I drive that. It is interesting, because a year from now, I won't drive that as often, because I'll have a kid not going to Carver. It's kind of weird how your traffic patterns change. But it's a young neighborhood, and there's all those houses going up there. So I think that's something, I would love it not to be out Big Woods, but I don't know what your options are.
Well, yeah, I mean, the nature of the
Jonathan Carver.
site really kind of gives two options, right? Either Big Woods Boulevard or Jonathan Carver
Yeah.
Parkway need to be used to access for construction. Concept plan, we're usually not talking a whole lot about details on
Yeah.
construction access, but I do think, well noted that we'll need to make sure that we're coordinating that. Now, in the background here, and what's not part of this proposal or these guys' responsibility or anything, but We are working in beginning with some of the proposal that's going on with the park, with what was proposed on Holostics property and what's being implemented with High Point Vista, the connection of Savannah Way that would carry all the way to Chaska Boulevard. Eyeing next summer to be doing that. So a lot of these things are going to be happening kind of tangentially, but once that connection is created, that provides a different route for the neighborhood, to be able to access the, Carver and the elementary school and all that. Another piece I think that's important to keep in mind, and certainly, project number 1 is going to generate construction traffic in and of itself. But this is something that even as staff, we have to keep reminding ourselves, this is a very large area that's being proposed, right, for concept plan. Our expectation for implementation on this is that it's going to stretch over a lot of time, and Jacob and I have had a lot of conversation around that. I mean, we're looking at, Jake would love it to be 10, I think it's maybe closer to 15, but this is going to be a long time
10 or 15
of
years.
implementation, correct?
Oh,
Yep.
a long time.
Because, these are a lot of large buildings, and just looking at the pace that we've seen, and maybe I hope I'm proven wrong, I hope it happens in 5 or something, but what
So is
we've
he.
seen happening north of here, right, with the Apadan buildings, it's kind of every 2-3 years that we've seen one of those buildings popping up. So if you carry that pace forward and what's being proposed here, you kind of get, to a number like that.
Sure.
So it's not as if though you're going to have
All of them are
every
right to go.
construction,
Yeah.
True.
truck
Fair.
in the world descending on this
Yeah.
site to build
Very
all
true.
these buildings at one time.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'd just
keep
say,
in mind.
and I'd just like to add, we do this all the time. And we want to be as accommodating as possible, but also we are trying to be as safe as possible. So we'll work with everybody in order to accomplish that.
And I think with, like, a good, once it gets for, like, talking to the school district for busing would be important. Because again, there's a lot of, all those houses that all are out to the east of that, all filter to Carver Elementary right now. Could have been different if something would have happened several years ago, but, so I think those are just interested parties to keep in the loop.
Yep.
Obviously, the good news is timelines. A lot of stuff happens not during school season because it's winter. So, those are helpful too. But yeah, that is a narrow space. Like you go through that road and it gets really tiny quickly, and the houses are right there, right? But my kids will be happy when the curb's done, because then they could take their bikes on a bike path. Because it's true, you can get all the way to Quick Trip into Carver. It's that, from that area, it's that only section that doesn't have the sidewalk or anything. Otherwise, you got beautiful trails on Jonathan Carver.
Yeah.
So it'll be great. And I'm sure, like I said, a lot of people in those neighborhoods will find that as an asset in the end, because they'll have that. It'll be nice to have the tax revenue over there too, but they'll love the bike paths to get to the, Jonathan Carver, go up to Victoria, all the way, go south to Carver. But there's, I don't know, it's like a mile maybe, less than a mile. It's
Yeah.
not very far, but it's, I heard all the stories from my kids because they forgot about that on Monday.
And it was muddy.
And it was muddy, and now it's snowing. Like, that's Minnesota, right? So, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that will need to be worked on kind of as phases continue to build out is just ensuring that access points, specifically on the Collector Road or Public Road A, and other public and private roads that align where practical and feasible, and also meet spacing requirements along a collector road. So that'll be something that'll continue to be refined and coordinated with staff to ensure we're creating a safe corridor through the development. So there's a couple things that will need to be worked on, both on the access and right-of-way piece for building one site, but also the other buildings that develop in this area. I'm not going to go into too much detail. All of this is included as conditions of approval, but it is really looking at where access points on county roads can line up, both with the city of Carver and meeting spacing guidelines from Carver County side, as well as from the city side too. And just working on, again, refining those pieces for all of the access points proposed. Traffic, so a TIA or a traffic impact analysis has been completed for this project as a part of the AUAR. That is kind of a required review process as a part of environmental reviews. It did conclude within that TIA that the surrounding transportation network and what is proposed for improvements can support the development with appropriate mitigations. So again, devil's in the details of those pieces.
Because it would be
A couple highlights, the Collector Road proposed, or Public Road A, is anticipated to have 7,000 daily trips on the north side in Big Woods Business Park North. 10% of those 7,000 trips would be trucks. And included within that, just from building one site, they anticipate roughly 3,000 daily trips, which is pretty high, or it's a pretty high metric, but with a distribution center, that's pretty normal. But distribution centers are kind of more of those higher traffic users, so that's why we see kind of that higher daily trip being projected there. So there'll be a couple things that they'll need to refine within their TIA, really speaking to the new Collector Road proposed, looking at different scenarios of how that road can either stay how it is proposed, ending in a cul-de-sac, or also connecting to Creek Road to the north, which has been a part of kind of the long-range plan or anticipation for that road. So understanding kind of how the development can operate in those varying scenarios, and ensuring that what does get built out there can accommodate and safely operate for the overall development. Because of the high daily trip count that comes from distribution centers, we are kind of laying out the foundation that the other subsequent sites within the business park area would not be for distribution center use. As we, again, see those users being high truck users and daily traffic generators, and because of that, having a limitation on only having one distribution center use out there is to kind of help set up that overall development area to be more adequate from a traffic standpoint. Speaking to utilities and where those need to get extended from, so as I mentioned before, they're currently stubbed at Creek Road and Chaska Creek Boulevard north of the site and across the ravine. So those utilities need to extend south quite a ways across the ravine to provide service to the development area. They're showing kind of a conceptual layout of where that can happen, kind of extending south through the right-of-way adjacent to the new MSB site, and then across the ravine to the south to connect into that northern cul-de-sac. There's probably a couple ways to look at where extensions can occur and where the least invasive extension can happen. So moving into that preliminary phase, they'll have to evaluate where those extensions should really happen. They will need Tradition's property in order to bring those utilities down, so there will need to be some participation and agreement with Traditions to bring the utilities into the project area. In addition to the utility extensions, as I mentioned before, this area on the north side is both planned for a city water tower and a city substation. The city water tower, the way the concept plan is laid out, would show that water tower on the kind of northwest side of where that northern cul-de-sac would end. And then the city substation would kind of be on that northeast side of the project area, with access coming from that private road extending off of the collector road. The city water tower, in terms of timing, adequate area for it, all of that would need to be coordinated with our water and sewer director. So that'll be something they'll need to work on kind of in the next phase or step of this project with building one site. The city substation, the timing on that still needs to get coordinated. This service territory that the concept plan is in is currently within Minnesota Valley's territory. However, in the next 15 years, the city does anticipate to absorb and service that MVEC territory. So there will be kind of that dual coordination that needs to happen both with the city electric and MVEC on the onset here to understand their plans out there. As we get into trails and sidewalks, we have a couple documents that kind of guide this overall area for pedestrian facilities. We have both the 2040 comprehensive plan and the trail plan that's kind of anticipated where connections and extensions need to occur. And then we also have a newer document, which is known as our Chaska pedestrian and bike master plan that was adopted in the last couple years, that has kind of provided additional guidelines and design standards to consider for this area as well. The concept plan does show or propose the addition of both a sidewalk and a trail extension to occur on kind of the proposed public roads within the north and south areas of the business park, which would be extensions from the Southwest Regional Trail from the north side across the ravine, as well as the trail systems along Big Woods Boulevard that'll be extended west towards Jonathan Carver Parkway. And then connection to the trail system that's currently exists on the east side of Jonathan Carver Parkway. And then in addition to that, there's been guidance for a trail system to also be included in that northern wooded ravine system too. So they are showing kind of contemplation of those connections that have been defined in those two guiding documents. In addition, what will also be important is showing internal pedestrian connections in each of the building sites and how they connect into those external facilities along the county roads and the new public roads and within the northern wooded ravine, so that there's kind of that continuous looping or connection provisions within the development area. And that's for both the building one site and subsequent sites that come later. Kind of tied into that is outdoor gathering spaces for the concept area. There's kind of this importance to be able to provide amenities and areas for employees and pedestrians to connect into and be able to use within this area. Those are kind of pieces that are called out in our Southwest Chaska plan for these spaces. So something that both Building 1 and other buildings will have to continue to refine and show in their plans is how they will provide those amenities within the development area and within the specific sites and how they connect into those pedestrian connections too. Screening, landscaping, and tree preservation will be important, specifically as this property has some major roadway abutments from, Jonathan Carver Parkway, Big Woods Boulevard, Highway 212. So those view sheds are pretty prominent from those major roadways. And then also because this area is within our green belt and has two key community entrances identified, both on the north and the south sides. So view sheds need to be protected and prioritized, as we mentioned before. So landscaping, screening, tree preservation really feed into that priority.
I think keep in mind that building a destination park to the east, everyone coming west is going to go through this space, right? If you think about it, because the 212 interchange brings you to Jonathan Carver, and then you go up, and so I agree. I think, and I know they'll do that, but that is important because a lot of traffic will go through that if we truly succeed in building an amazing park to the east of it.
Yep, that's a good point. The applicant has provided a number of cross-section exhibits in their concept plan, which is not something we typically get necessarily at concept plan or as a requirement, but it's starting to set the stage of kind of what those relationships and kind of differences in view sheds exist along those major roadways. I haven't included all of them in this presentation because there are quite a lot, but I did include kind of the edge for Jonathan Carver Parkway and Big Woods Boulevard, where Building 1 site is, just to give kind of that look into what that site is projected to be. There's some proposed landscaping, ponding, and some berming proposed on some of those edges. I think there's a few things for the applicant to work on to really bolster those view sheds, really bolster the berming, the screening, the landscaping along Jonathan Carver Parkway and Big Woods Boulevard at the key community entrances on that intersection, so they can ensure that, again, that rural character and view shed is maintained. So I think there's a few things that they'll need to work on into their preliminary to really capture that requirement that's called out. We get into the details of that really kind of in the conditions of approval and comments within our report. I'm not going to get into too much detail on that, just more high level at this point. And then getting into the building and parking design of these properties. All of the sites will need to adhere to our industrial and commercial requirements for building design and materials, and make sure that they meet Class 1 requirements for the difference between the industrial and the commercial sites. There's also commentary to providing a cohesive architectural theme throughout the business park, so that this place really feels like a connected, cohesive business park. And also adhering to the design guidelines that are called out in the Southwest Chaska plan. There's a lot of good commentary in there that they'll need to meet as they work on each of these sites as they develop. Really the only site that there's details around is Building 1 site, which is a part of Phase 1 of this business park. So they've included more information in terms of kind of a building layout, building elevations, and so forth. The Building 1 site encompasses a little over 60 acres in size, and again, it's on the north side, kind of on that west edge abutting Jonathan Carver Parkway and just immediately north of Big Woods Boulevard. They anticipate a 218,000 square foot building there, roughly 40 feet tall, rectangular in footprint. It's highlighted in purple on this exhibit here. That'll kind of orient more north to south for that rectangular footprint. They have a warehousing and distribution center user identified for this building who will operate on a 24/7 schedule with deliveries happening during kind of those normal business hours during the daytime, and then internal warehousing uses during the nighttime hours. This user anticipates a pretty heavy parking requirement. So they anticipate over 1,300 spaces for the building, which would include both employee parking and then parking that's needed for the delivery trucks that are stored. The employee parking is oriented on the south side of the site and south of that building footprint. And then that delivery truck parking is oriented on the west side of the site, kind of in between the building and where those stormwater ponds are shown. So that would make up kind of a majority of the parking that you see for this site. They also anticipate 2 different accessory buildings with the property. One would be a larger one on the northwest side, roughly 5,000 square feet. And that would basically be a maintenance or a mechanics bay for the delivery trucks. So they'll be able to do maintenance and mechanical work on those delivery trucks in that northwest building. And then a smaller accessory building, which will be closer to where the main building is on the south side, roughly 800 square feet. This is more of kind of that day-to-day pass-through building that delivery trucks would go through for kind of those quick inspections before they go in and out of the field for delivery.
I assume that all entrances will be gated into those spaces. Is that, so it'd be like the person could come off the road and go back by like the maintenance bay, or is it all gated back? Do you understand my question? Made sense in my head.
Sure. Yeah, no, good evening, Jason Vengus. I'm a rep for the end user. The only space that would generally be gated for these facilities would be the truck court, and that would normally be a guard shack. For this facility, though, generally there's no guard shack. So these are all open. Yeah. The facility is staffed at 24/7. So any vehicles, so the drivers of the delivery vehicles will actually enter so the larger lot there on the western side of the screen, that's the delivery fleet parking.
So they'd enter off Jonathan Carver, a little circle in the corner
Yep.
there? Right
And
there?
so they'll enter with their personal vehicles and either find an open spot or they'll do a one-to-one exchange. So they'll leave their vehicle in the lot or in the aisle, pull the van out, pull their vehicle in, and then queue up. So I don't think this plan isn't as detailed, but there is in a future plan there'll be some queuing components and some flow as you can kind of see how the traffic kind of flows on the site itself. So there will be pedestrian or personal vehicles in that lot that will largely just be the drivers themselves.
So I could, in theory, enter that space and look at everyone's personal car and truck and everything. I probably wouldn't want to stay in there, but there's nothing preventing me from going into that.
It's not like a
The
secured,
large,
yeah.
the
it's not a
large
secured-
left.
Correct, yeah, because during the day there'll be personal vehicles in there, and then at night there'll be delivery vans. They should be secured, and there'll be cameras in the site.
I prefer, I just think like welcoming, right? Like, I work in a large industrial park in Shakopee, and there's a lot of the spaces, some of the spaces near us have gates, pharmaceutical companies, that's why. But it's it's not as welcoming, right? Like when you see a big, and they never look nice, right? Because why would you make a movable gate that keeps people out look nice, right? So that's what I was curious. That's a good answer. I appreciate that answer. I was just kind of curious because I wasn't sure about, because you said some users may choose to have a
Right.
guard shack at that point, so.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
And kind of related to access into the site, they do show 5 different access points into Building 1 site. 4 would come off of that Collector Road or Public Road A. On the east side there, all of those are kind of full access points. The northern one would be direct access into the back to get to the delivery truck parking area. The access immediately south of that one would be a truck access point into the loading area on the north side of the building. So this would only be for trucks and loading on that north side. And then south of that access point would be into kind of a staging area for delivery trucks on that east side of the building. And then the southernmost access point would have access to that employee parking lot on the south side of the building. And the 5th access point would come from Jonathan Carver Parkway, which is a right-in, right-out access.
Is that gonna be like right in, right out, where there's gonna be a concrete kind of island that's gonna really make sure that it is only a right in and a right out? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
well-
cars can't just decide
Yep.
when they're approaching that
On
they're
a-
gonna, because it's a very dangerous road.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, so that'll be part of the process that applicant will need to go through with Carver County, right? So ultimately, this is gonna be an access point. There's a number of things that Liz, I don't know if you've maybe pointed out, or maybe you will, or has covered, but as it relates to this location, needing to make sure that this access spacing requirements are gonna be met with Carver County is gonna be something that they'll have to work on. Coordination with Carver on the other side. You know, Carver has business park, you know, goals on the other side of County Road 11. So making sure that the placement of this access doesn't prevent or, you know, conflict with access points that they'll want to see, and creating opportunities for alignment there. And if it's going to be a right-in, right-out, they'll have to work with Carver County as to whether a median is going to be required, or how, you know, some sort of pork chop like you're talking about.
Yeah.
How that access control would happen. I think one of the things that we would like to see evaluated before we conclude that private access is the only route onto County Road 11 is what is the opportunity for a public access to happen there, because there's a lot of value, you know, to potentially serve business park by allowing that access point to serve, you know, buildings beyond just this one user by making it a private. So I think those are all pieces that we're going to want to see evaluated and better understood as it moves through the process.
Okay.
And I have just a quick question. I did some research and looked up Scannell properties and a lot of the things that you guys have done so far. And I just have are you planning on like a large square footage building with, you know, like just like a one level, or are you planning like it's gonna be multiple level? Just so I can understand like what it would look like. Obviously, there's a big parking lot there, but I can see many of we've actually done a lot of both, I see in your portfolio.
Yep, this will be a single-story office
Single-story.
warehouse,
Okay,
industrial buildings. That's typically what you do
okay.
for Class A industrial buildings, not just in Minneapolis, but across the country.
Yeah, no, I see
So.
some of them in Wisconsin and
Yeah,
Nebraska, you've done some.
yeah. There are some cases when there's office space, where there's multi-level office space, where you might see it in the mezzanine area.
Yep.
So you'll see it from that perspective, but for building 1, it'll be a single-story
Single story, okay.
single-story office. For the remaining of the park and the other buildings, much of the same will happen, but who's to say it won't be two-story office inside, or have
Yeah,
some,
but we're not
some
talking about a
mezzanine.
real tall building or anything. that you
No.
have real-
No, about 40-foot clear, which
Okay.
is standard, yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Wonderful. Are we keeping you on track over there?
Yes. I'm
Okay.
just trying to figure out what more to say. They've included an elevation drawing as a part of this concept plan package here. Just kind of gives a pretty generic distribution center building layout there. Kind of as I mentioned before, we'll want to continue to work on the details of their building plan and how it meets our building design and materials ordinance, but also kind of starting to think about, you know, the theme that they want to set for the overall business park too. So I think there's a couple things that, you know, we'll need to continue to coordinate and refine into that preliminary submittal. In addition to that, you know, we've mentioned before, landscaping and screening is going to be a big ticket thing with this site, being it is on a key community entrance. So again, that will need to be worked out as well with the details, berming, view sheds, and that sort of thing into the site, as there's a large parking expanse proposed with this building, and a 40-foot tall proposal at this point for the actual building. So kind of understanding how all of those kind of fit into the objectives out here. And then kind of getting to, you know, that point about the limitation of only having one distribution center in the overall business park. There's a few objectives that are called out in the Southwest Chaska plan, as well as the business park guidance to create more diverse job creation within the overall area. So limiting a distribution center to only one in this area kind of reinforces that idea. It also you know, as we can see, these users use large parking lot areas that are definitely more disproportionate to kind of the overall building area or building footprint. So that's not necessarily something we want to continue on all of the sites within the business park area. And then, you know, getting to that objective of having high-quality building and site design and enhancing those site views into the overall business park area. So that's kind of conditioned within the business park comments or what's approved with the overall business park area. And then some other things that really didn't get called out in kind of those other topics that we've highlighted, and things they'll need to work on for preliminary. They'll need to work on a wetland mitigation plan and impact assessment. So if they are planning to impact wetlands, ensuring that they meet our standards for that and are protecting kind of those high quality wetlands where defined. They also need to work on preparing a comprehensive plan amendment specifically for impacts to the Greenbelt area and what they want to pursue for cluster development. And then also amendments to include those two Dahlgren Township parcels that aren't currently guided or zoned right now. Another thing that will need to get fully wrapped up before they can pursue preliminary is adopting the final AUAR or environmental review of the project. And they're in the process of doing that. It's just an elongated process with an AUAR, but they're working towards that. But that will need to be fully adopted by council before they can pursue other or subsequent steps for the project. And then, you know, details into how the Greenbelt is going to get preserved and prioritized and implemented as this business park progresses through different phases, and ensuring that there's strategies and methods to ensure that the protection of the Greenbelt is maintained as development continues. So with that, we're asking to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-17, which is approving the concept plan for the Big Woods Business Park, and then based on the conditions that are laid out within that resolution. Happy to answer any other questions you have. Otherwise, the development team can help answer questions too. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. I know that was, I think maybe that was the longest,
Probably.
staff report you've done, so, does anybody have any questions for staff at all? Or was- No? I know thank you for letting us kind of
Mhm.
ask questions
I think
as
it
we go along.
helps.
I think that helped hopefully break up your time as well
Mhm.
as be able to kind of address some of the points as we walk through them. And so, I mean, again, it kind of goes back to, concept level, big picture ideas and kind of working through things. Look forward to seeing what comes about with preliminary as far as working on some of those items that you had addressed. Also just want to thank you guys for choosing the investment in our community. This is really, really exciting. This brings a lot of jobs, tax base, and opportunity to our community, so I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that. And then also staff working in coordination. There's a lot of different property owners involved in this, and it's a big undertaking. So thank you guys for all of the time and energy and investment that you have made, kind of working on several of the components of it. And it's also, you have a township involved, and a county involved, and another city involved. So, I mean, this is really huge, but this will be wonderful. And looking at the kind of the architectural renderings and everything, it's beautiful. So, those are my thoughts. Does anybody else want to share anything in regards to that?
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what you said, and I think this is a fantastic addition. I do want to really lean into the importance of the green belt, and this is just such a visible property, and as Carver and Victoria and that whole area continues to grow, it is really the introduction of our community to users coming, or people coming from the west, and I just think that's really important. So that big parking lot and how it interacts with the road and the view shed there, I think will be important to see. Obviously at concept, less concerned with that, but just want to mention that I think it's important, and I'll be looking for that to be done really well. And if it's not, you'll hear it from me. So, I'm not shy. So that's one piece that I'm just really watching closely, I guess, because I do just think it is such a beautiful area right now, and obviously it's going to develop, and it's developing this. This is a development that makes sense, so I'm all for that. But I think you can have both things. So that's my thoughts.
I'll just add, I've talked a lot because I have a very strong interest. Like I said, I do drive. I live in Founder's Ridge. I drive that stretch of road Monday through Friday for the next 6 months, and then I'll probably go that way for a while. My friends have a lot of friends in Carver, so I will. I do appreciate. I will.
Sorry.
I'll go. Sorry. I do appreciate the focus on the big project, right? Because it would be easy to develop or have a developer piece that together. And then I think you lose some of this theming. We talked about theming and continuity
Yeah.
that it looks, right? Obviously, it's a bigger risk for you to go the whole property, and obviously, but I think that will serve us well. You think with looks, Councilmember Hatfield, how it all looks together and have that shed. I think we'll have. I feel like we have a better success with it all, but kind of looking at it as a whole versus pieces of it. So yeah, I think it's exciting. The one question I had towards the very end. Towards the very end, there was a map that had all red on it, Liz, with the mailing, recommended mailing section.
Mm-hmm.
So those mailings went out, right?
Yes.
So I guess the only observation I will make, and this is where we always fall into the game, what's the right distance? None of the housing development gets hit with that, right? So I'm not saying you gotta have another neighborhood meeting. I just think it would be helpful or useful or feedback to take. Because again, you look at that when all of those houses don't quite hit that boundary. We always have this game up here, like, what's the right distance for the mailer? But in this project, it's just interesting that none of those houses and those residents actually got that mailing. So it was an interesting observation. I think they have associations you could reach out to get information. Maybe that would be helpful. I've just learned that it always is best for all parties' interests involved if no one is surprised by anything that's happening. And I don't know if a lot of people will be. I think I certainly was informed prior to being on council that would be, industrial warehouse type space versus residential. So that was just another observation. But no, I echo the mayor's thoughts about, investing. It's exciting. It's also like a little sad because it's like the last big property, right? It's exciting. Someone's got to do it and it's great, but it's also kind of like, this is, now it's not here tomorrow, which unfortunately, right? It's that 10 to 15 years piece of it. But yeah, I like how it lays out. I have, I'll get lots of questions, I'm sure. And if you need connections to people to talk to in the neighborhoods, they will find me out too. So, and again, I'll be excited to tell my kids that eventually they'll have sidewalk all the way to get the quick trip and spend $20 on candy and pop is what they spent on it. That was great.
Yeah. Actually, that did bring about a question that I initially had. There's some of that's slotted for like commercial. Do we have any particular end user or even like a type, convenience store, small business retail? Like, do we have a vision in our head on that, or?
We're envisioning that the demand will be like a C-store.
Okay.
Maybe a car wash.
Okay.
But
Those
nobody's been identified.
They're very popular right now.
Car washes, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's nice. It's winter.
Tires.
They're very,
Yeah.
very lucrative.
But nothing has been identified.
Okay.
I think a Starbucks would be really great.
I do like Starbucks.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
They'd be a great customer for all the people working in that
Yeah, all
space.
that, yeah, yeah.
Starbucks.
Yeah, well, they might.
And there's
I mean,
not one
that's
out in Carver
gonna
yet,
feed
so maybe-
something. I envisioned a possible convenience store over there, which
Yeah.
would maybe make your kids really happy.
It's a little closer.
Yeah,
So-
the comprehensive plan, the way it talks about commercial relative to this area is really about supporting services for the business park, and then
Yeah.
that, is a byproduct of the surrounding neighborhood too. It's not intended to be something that's regional in nature, right? So you can think about what are those supporting services that would support the business park. A C-store certainly would fall in that category. Hotel, I think, is maybe an opportunity out here, with it being right on the interchange. Now, does the market support one? I guess we'll see. Daycare comes to mind, sort of grab and go lunch, that sort of thing, for the employees that are working out there. That's, I think, the nature of
Yeah.
the direction and the vision that is set by the comp plan.
I appreciate you elaborating on that, because that was something that I had in my mind, and then I kind of got lost in the green belt, so.
Mhm.
All right.
City motion.
Yeah, we need some motions here if we're gonna, I'm lost in where the motions are, but I think it's to approve the concept plan here for.
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-17, approving the concept plan for Big Woods Business Park, Scannell Property, PC number 2025-23.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Graf.
Second.
And a second from Councilmember Benish. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thanks for hanging out so long.
Thank you guys for, your efforts.
You
and-
never know when you're the last.
Sounds
one
like
on
you
the-
guys are really thrilled and excited to keep moving forward. You want to get those shovels in the ground, so I'm sure we will be seeing you very soon. So, yeah. Sounds good. All right, this moves us along to bills. Does anybody have a question on any of the bills that came forward? There were a lot of them, obviously, because
The police station is almost open.
well, and we went 3 weeks or whatever without council meetings, so, but, just tons of rousiness. Okay, I guess with that, I would need a motion to pay the bills.
Motion to pay the bill.
All right, motion from Councilmember Shevlin. Second from Councilmember Benish. All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hatfield,
Yes.
Councilmember Benish,
Yes.
Councilmember Shevlin,
Yes.
Councilmember Grau,
Aye.
Mayor Hubbard.
Yes. All right, bills are paid. All right, this moves us along to other reports or other business. Councilmember Hatfield, why don't you start us off strong?
I don't really remember the last 3 weeks. I don't know why. I think it was a blur because it was warm and then it was cold and then it was warm and that's how it's cold again. So lots of things going on, but some things that I would like to tell you all about. Mostly that Cops and Donuts on Wednesday is at bubble time, and I'm really excited about that. It is from 4 to 5, and if you haven't been to bubble time, it's a fantastic place with really delicious donuts, drinks, hot dogs on a stick, fried cheese on a stick.
Yes.
So good. And it's like just the best little, like it shouldn't be a best kept secret, but it is like a little secret where it's at. So hopefully you can all show up and try them out because this is a great time, and also get to chat with some of our officers. So I was really excited when I saw that because it was a new spot too. So that's really nice. And then the Chaska Community Center Carnival is coming up on March 6th at 5:30. That's always a great event. And then I also saw on our Facebook that applications for Christmas in May are up. So it's crazy to think about May already, but that's always a really great event. So if you have a home in need of something and that is a challenge to get done, definitely look at the application. Every year, I'm always just so inspired by the groups that show up and want to just help out. And I know sometimes, like from talking to the property owners, they always feel like a little bit nervous or embarrassed, and I don't think anyone needs to feel that way. Everyone's always, like, I'm excited when there's a bunch of houses to do, and I know everyone else is, and everyone's excited to help, and we all get to get outside when it's getting warmer out and paint some things and rake some things, and it's just a lot of fun. So I know the volunteers are always happy and excited to do it, so check that out if your home is in need of something. The applications are up, and you can see that more information on our Facebook. So that's always a nice event. And that's really, I think that's everything I had.
That's a good report.
Oh, I was going to mention one more thing, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
The mayor and I attended the Minnesota League of, how does that word go?
Next level leadership?
Well, no, League of Minnesota Cities, there we go, right order. Next level leadership, and that was to just further our skills, I guess, as public leaders, and there were some really good presentations, and I thought one that was really interesting was on emergencies, essentially, and so city administrator and mayor of Mankato? Mayor? Yeah. Wow,
No, he was a council member.
Council member? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was, okay.
The mayor of Bemidji was.
Mayor Bemidji is what, and then city manager of Bemidji also just talked about the different emergencies they had in their communities. One was a derecho in Bemidji, and then the flood in Mankato, and it was just really interesting, and it made me so grateful for our levy that we have in here in Chaska, the challenges that they have to just deal with, and how protected we are with that. It just made me really grateful. So I thought I'd mention it again, that it's something we don't think about, especially those of us that live downtown or have businesses downtown. All the work and money the city spent putting that in really keeps us very, very safe and dry every year. So it just was a good reminder, and also just a good event to kind of hone our skills. But I thought I'd mention that I'm always grateful when I hear the stories of Mankato during the flood and things like that. So, okay, now I think that's all.
Oh, that's a good report. All right, Councilmember Benish.
I do not have anything.
All right, well, that moves us right along to Councilmember Shevlin.
I do not have anything either.
Okay, Councilmember Roth.
I'll just take one thing to elaborate a little bit. I know Councilmember Hatfield talked about Southwest Transit particularly, but I do think it's important to echo a couple things. Point out, if you go out to Southwest Transit's website, there are links for you to easily click one button, fill out a couple of information, and it will send emails to your representatives. as an elected official, so all of you could do that. I did mine as sitting in my meeting last Thursday, but as well as residents and other parties. I do think the most interesting thing, and I just smile because it's the game we all play, or they play, or somebody plays. And Councilmember Hatfield nailed it on the head earlier, was there will be a lot of conversation about this opt-out situation saving money, right? You know, and I'm looking at, I've seen messages been sent already about how it could, you know, it's going to save taxpayer money, because clearly that's what people like to hear, right? Like, but the reality is, it's still money that's going to be coming out. It's just not going to get used in our spaces that it's going to. So I think that's an important message that we continue as cities and as elected people in Chaska keep mentioning, that this isn't making you pay less tax dollars, which it may be positioned. I mean, I've seen exact language that makes it sound like that, which is actually, to be called what it is, it's misleading, because it's not. It's not going to lower your tax bill. You're not going to pay less taxes. It just means less of those tax dollars are going to end up back in the city of Chaska, Chanhassen, and Prairie. So, you know, I continue to learn more, and I think my goal to continue at these council member meetings or council meetings to pull a nugget each time and say, hey, we should think about this or do this. I liked what I heard there. I think we had a meeting Thursday, and you know, they were very, you know, Eric was very clear, like, sometimes it feels like the sky's falling, and others, it's like, okay, this is gonna be all right. I think they're pretty confident that a bill will get introduced that will call for opt-outs to be eliminated. I think there's hope that with all the stuff, other stuff that needs to be figured out, that it's not gonna actually go anywhere, but conversation will be had throughout the year and maybe next year. So it's real. It's developed fast, but again, I think I'll leave my last message again. It's, if you're hearing messages, because the message is going to be, you heard about, it's going to be about saving tax dollars. This is not a tax savings opportunity.
Well,
We are still going to be paying the same,
You just won't
and
get
we're
the
just not
service
going to
now.
get those services that
Yeah.
it comes. But it may not be positioned that way in other literature.
I think it's really important that we stay very, very vigilant on this, because there are other entities that are lobbying our legislators to vote to, support a bill that's gonna eliminate it. And the big argument is over, you know, some of the argument is over the sales tax allocation of money that we all pay in as community members in our county that gets derived back towards transportation and that cost-sharing piece of things. So I think it's really important that we stay vigilant on that topic.
Yeah, and I think it's important to add too that, you know, we had a conversation last Thursday about Southwest really can be a role model, an example of things, how we've done things. Now, the data will be out there. It's, you know, it's being published, right? Like, we are being lumped together with some other opt-outs that maybe don't have a strong story, or maybe needs to learn a little bit from Southwest Transit. And so we're just trying to really make sure that the legislators know, like, don't just lump all the opt-outs together because we all act the same way, because there's really not. There are very stark differences. You know, we are, you know, running more efficient in Metro Transit itself, and some of those cost numbers. So again, it's just trying to make sure that we speak loud and we're clear about the message, and please just don't lump us together, because we're not all the same, and we have different needs and desires, and we've managed our money and operations differently, and so it's important to understand that too. But it is easy just to say, well, the opt-outs. Well, you know, let's name the opt-outs and be clear what Southwest Transit Valley brings to the
Right.
communities.
Are they looking to expand that to like Waconia or other areas? Like,
Eventually,
Yeah, I mean, like Carver is a good example. They have a, you'll explain it better, but they have
They have an ex
agreement.
officio members, they have a member that doesn't vote. But that was part of what the transportation study we completed with the county was to identify some of those. So we did get that report back of, you know, what does it look like to include Waconia? They wouldn't be, we'd have to, all three cities would have to like vote to include other cities
okay.
in the joint powers, but as far as like providing additional services, so we already provide services to, you know, Carver, Victoria, and then looking at what other services or is there more express routes or more prime opportunity So yeah, Carver has an ex officio member that he comes to meetings and gives his input and is valuable. He's not voting, but very valuable to have. So, and then, you know, there are cities that have opt-out, but haven't executed their ability to opt-out. City of Minnetonka is one of those, things like that, where those are always, those as well. You know, it'd be really amazing is if everybody could choose to opt out. That would be nice. They could do that if they wanted, or they could do what Minnetonka did and kept using Metro Transit. So, yeah. But having multiple transit agencies also breeds competition. Competition breeds innovation. Innovation can be used to keep things like costs down. And for us to have really amazing transportation in the Twin Cities, that's an important thing that maybe some of our legislators aren't giving enough thought to. So.
Thank you for that. That's all I have. I just wanted to make sure to
Yeah,
bring that
great.
up, because again, I know it was talked earlier, but I didn't.
Yeah, I think it's important that we keep talking about it, though. Krista? You got big news?
I do actually have one item that I can share.
You're all over there lonely in the corner.
Lonely in the corner here. I actually also attended the League of Minnesota Cities City Attorney Conference at the beginning of this month, and I have an item that I learned after speaking with. We had a presentation by members or my representatives of the Office of Cannabis Management. There's been some question as to how the Office of Cannabis Management was going to handle the renewal process for cannabis licenses and registrations. And I've spoke with them, and I confirmed that they're planning on handling those on a rolling basis, with the statute requiring that cities renew their registrations at the same time as the Office of Cannabis Management handles their renewal process. The reality of that means that we're probably going to be seeing cannabis applications, new cannabis and hemp edible applications coming in on a rolling basis, rather than like with liquor licensing and tobacco being done on an annual basis.
Sure.
And also those renewals, and will continue to happen on a rolling basis. You'll probably see consent agenda items for those, but on a more frequent basis rather than
Okay. Well, that's good
rather
to
than
know.
an annual renewal like we see with liquor and tobacco.
Sure.
They are aware that cities do prefer to do them on an annual basis,
Yeah.
but there's been no formal discussions about switching to that, and I don't know if they have the staff to do it that way.
I was just gonna say, they're probably trying to get up off the ground with all of that too, so. All right, great report. Nate, you're up.
I've not been to any League of Minnesota City
It's disappointing. We need you
do
to do
trainings or
better.
anything
Oh,
recently,
executives.
which it may show, so I'll look into those. I don't have any.
Okay, thank you for adding
Sure, a
that.
lot today. It's good.
Elise?
All right, I'll try and channel my inner Matt here with a few items from his biweekly to share. First of all, as you saw in his biweekly, we did receive and open bids for the MSB project on Thursday. I think generally it went well. There's a few categories that came back a little higher than we were anticipating. So over the next few weeks, between the architect and RJM as our construction manager and his staff, we'll be looking at those more closely. It's anticipated, if we can, as we look overall at the project, to bring it back to you on March 16th.
Okay.
That would be the idea. Additionally, the library, we've had some discussions and have drafted just generally an overview memo of the process which we envision the library design process going through. We're finalizing that. We will get it out to you probably the end of the week, so you can see what that process looks like. It does kick off this spring, so it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah,
So that's why we want to get that in front of you right away.
thanks.
Looking, I did some polling of staff today. So this is one of the months where we have back-to-back meetings, and looking at what might be on an agenda for next week, it's extremely light, if anything. And so I will confirm later this week with you, but at this point in time, we don't anticipate having a council meeting next Monday. There was no planned work session anyway, and if we don't really have any council items that can't wait until the 16th, we don't see a need to meet unless you tell us otherwise. Given that it's 10:30 tonight,
I
I'm
was
guessing
gonna say, I
that
don't think
might
we're
not
gonna
be.
holler too hard about that.
And then I just wanted to draw your attention, and I know we have another council meeting on Wednesday, the 18th is the annual employee breakfast. You are all invited to that, and we'll present our Years of Service Award. Matt will kind of do a recap of everything that's happened in the past year. And then additionally, we have employee nominated awards for coworkers. So the ability to recognize some of our coworkers and the cool things they've done this year. So with that, that's all that I have.
Wonderful. All right. Wow. It's kind of like we're going to end on like a little bit of a cliffhanger here with not knowing exactly when the next council meeting is going to be. All right. Well, I've got a list of fun things. I feel like I've been kind of running all over the place. And when I tracked everything down, I was like, I have been running all over the place. So to recap some of the things, Councilmember Hatfield mentioned about the League of Minnesota Cities Next Level Leadership, and it was a really great event, and it was a great learning opportunity and networking opportunities with other communities as well. So our Chaska Police Department had an awards ceremony where they awarded some of our officers different awards. So I'm just going to list them off here. So Officer Adam Hastings got a Medal of Valor. And that stemmed off of, there was juvenile suspect that was being taken into custody at the jail that had kind of got away from them and was pretty much drowning in the courthouse lake behind the facility. And so Officer Hastings went in and rescued him because he was shackled. So big thank you to him. I mean, for what he did. I mean, he ran into the water there. And then Lieutenant Chris George and Sergeant Jamie Personius both have the meritorious conduct. Meritorious. Thank you. It's 10:30. And that had to do with, just all of the work that they've put into the public safety campus. They've been our liaisons as far as kind of on the police department side of things. And then Officer Joseph Bankston, Medal of Distinction. He helped an individual that was having, I believe, a mental health crisis, and helped that person to be safe. And then Officer Hunter Panning, and also our community engagement officer, Kevin Wright, with letters of the chief's letter of commendation in regards to all their work on social media. So, and engagement with the public. So I just want to say thank you to them, and as far as our whole department, because they all work really, really hard and show our appreciation, and kind of pivoting that they were part of, so some of the officers and some of their family members were part of the Polar Plunge that happened this last weekend, and they raised over $4,000. I think it was like $4,600. It came up a little short from Carver County Sheriff's, which my husband was happy about, but that's okay. It was all goes to a good cause, and they all got to jump in that icy cold water on that really nice Saturday. But
We should have video of that to show.
we do. I took slow-mo video of it, so it was pretty entertaining. But yeah, so great cause. And then that Saturday there was also the ice fishing contest with the Chaska Fire Relief. Again, another great city event that brought together the community and raised money for the relief to undergo some of their camaraderie with some of the things they do and different things that they, like the stuffed animals for the kids and everything like that are undergoing a crisis. So really great event. I went to the Chamber Legislative Dinner last week with Mayor Elise from Orion from Chanhassen, and then some of the board from the Southwest Metro Chamber, and then Senator Coleman and Representative Harder. and she's over in the kind of the Carver side of things, and then like Representative Nash was there. So just kicking off, I think, the legislative session and kind of listening to some of the leadership in what was to kind of come for this upcoming legislative session, and obviously see some business owners and things alike. So it was a good dinner. I went with Matt to the Capitol last week to kick off the manufacturers' home rally for their kind of their homeowners' Bill of Rights. So they asked for me to speak, and so we spoke out on behalf of just the real difference between our two manufactured home parks. That, Riverview Terrace does a really wonderful job of creating community and addressing residents and keeping things affordable and just being just an all-around great property owner in this community. And the stark difference with Brandondale Estates, and just kind of being the residents just feeling, we've seen them all here, feeling very frustrated and upset, steep lot rent increases, and utilities not being addressed, and infrastructure not being addressed, and then not having management staff, and especially during times like this when I think some of the residents were really looking for that. So I was happy to do that and speak out, and we'll see what's to come for them. But I think they need a lot of legislative support as well. So, met with business owners, Chaska Commons, about opportunities, and then Matt and I also attended last Friday the Municipal Legislative Committee of Cities, the legislative breakfast, again, kicking off this legislative session. Some of the priorities as a city, really an aspect of the missing middle bill, with the housing legislation and kind of what's to come on that, and kind of really working with some of the legislators to kind of come up with compromise areas that can kind of help satisfy, I think, some of what they're looking for, and what the cities are willing to kind of give up as far as local control. I don't know if you want to elaborate on it, you certainly can. Otherwise, that's kind of my brief synopsis of that. And there's some other issues that the committee kind of works on as well. Representative Nash mentioned it. I think fiscal disparities is one, but we are like an even wash. So, but yeah, so that was Friday. And then over the weekend, Chaska VFW Post 1791 celebrated their 94th birthday. Oh, wow. And it was really fun to attend and see some of the VFW members and their family members and the command staff. So yeah, really just wonderful. And I did a little research on the VFW before I went there, and I was down in the library, and I was looking in the old history books, and it was formed in 1932. And you don't really think about it, but 1932 was when we were in the depths of the Great Depression. And to think about everything, and you can read it in those books exactly what they had to do, like the things that they were doing to kind of mitigate the depression and help the community locally that's undergoing it, and how they made that post at that time. That's just really amazing to create something during a time such as that. So just want to be recognized. And then went to the Chaska Bash. Okay, now upcoming things. There is a first responder coffee here in the chamber tomorrow at 8 a.m. through Southwest Chamber. There is a organization that is opening its doors and having a ribbon cutting tomorrow as well, called Slam the Stigma. They are working, I think they work with youth in regards to just mental health, and so they're going to be over by Starpino Pizza over there. So a really nice president or founder of that organization, just really invested. So love the fact that they're choosing to be a part of the Chaska community with their organization. And then I just want to say a shout out to Linda from Linda Seller on her retirement. I did not have an opportunity to get there this weekend, but she has been such a great asset to our community and our business community, and just want to congratulate her and wish her the best of enjoyment for whatever endeavor she is deciding to do, and she has built a great business over there, and I hope she had a great weekend, but just thank you for being a part of, I know she was really helpful with the development of our CDBA over the years, so anyways, would feel bad if I missed that. And, Coffee with the Cop, you mentioned that. Oh, and then I guess last, because I have no idea when our next council meeting is. Actually, no, two things. I'm gonna be sad for a second because I feel like I would not be doing my due diligence as I've been getting. I'm still getting, I don't know if anybody else is getting emails, I'm still getting emails over the impact of ice. And I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I understand that like with drawdowns, that sometimes people feel like things are over, and it's not really the feeling that's being shared in our community as a whole, and that we see that in the reports and the surveillance and the checkpoints that are happening. And so I don't want to brush that under the rug. I know that this is still happening. We are still working very closely with organizations in our community that serve those populations to make sure that we are staying attuned to their needs of what they feel like navigationally wise is wise, and how do we really best service those folks. And so I just want to point that out, that this is still in the forefront of my mind, and I know, I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I feel like it's probably in the forefront of everybody's mind, and that we are working very strongly and closely to continue to do what we can do with our local authority power to help create opportunities for solutions that will alleviate the fear and anxiety. And I know sometimes it's not much at this point with things, but we're trying our best. So, okay, now I'm pivoting to something happy. My son turns 11 on Thursday, so I just want to wish Ethan a happy birthday on Thursday.
Happy birthday.
And he gets to go on a ski field trip with his school classmates and everything that day. So best of fun days for him. Anyways, and since we may not have a meeting on Monday, March 2nd, our next meeting might be, I don't have that date, March 16th. So like a soap opera, stay tuned for the next meeting.
We will likely not have a meeting.
Okay, so come back on March 16th, which is great. It'll be like spring break for all of us. All right. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Hatfield and a second from Councilmember Shevlin. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.